Hawaii is known worldwide for its stunning beaches, lush landscapes, and serene tropical beauty. But beneath this paradise lies a darker side, haunted islands with chilling histories, where lost souls are said to wander, and the veil between the living and the dead feels impossibly thin. Welcome to a journey through the most haunted islands in Hawaii, a place where the whispers of the past linger among palm trees, and where the natural beauty of the islands hides stories of tragedy, mystery, and the supernatural. Niihau, the smallest of Hawaii's inhabited islands, is often referred to as the Forbidden Island. Its name evokes both curiosity and unease, for it is a place largely closed to outsiders, shrouded in mystery, and steeped in legends that have persisted for generations. While visitors rarely set foot on Niihau, those few who have managed to explore the island's remote valleys and rugged cliffs often return with stories that hint at something far beyond the ordinary. Tales of wandering spirits, unexplained chants, and a constant sense of being observed paint Niihau not merely as an untouched paradise, but as a place where the past refuses to rest. The origins of the island's haunting are tied to its history. Centuries ago, Niihau was home to small communities of native Hawaiians who lived in relative isolation, cultivating the land and fishing along the coasts. Over time, the island became a refuge during periods of conflict, as well as a place where disease and hardship took their toll. Legends speak of those who perished, defending their homes from invaders or succumbing to illness. Their spirits said to linger in the valleys and along the cliffs, unable to leave the land they loved in life. Locals and guides recount that these spirits are neither malevolent nor benign, they simply exist, wandering in silent observation of those who intrude upon their domain. Visitors to Niihau often report a deep, unsettling sense of being watched, even in the most isolated areas, while the island's cliffs provide breathtaking views of the surrounding ocean and neighboring islands. The beauty is accompanied by a palpable tension. Hikers and explorers have described turning a corner in a narrow valley and feeling the unmistakable weight of unseen eyes upon them. Shadows seem to shift in the corner of the eye, only to vanish when directly observed. This sensation is often compounded by the natural acoustics of the island, where the wind through the valleys and cliffs can carry sounds in unexpected ways, making distant footsteps or murmurs appear unnervingly close. Strange chanting is another phenomenon frequently reported on Niihau. Visitors have claimed to hear faint, rhythmic voices echoing through the valleys, often just at the edge of audibility. The chants are sometimes melodic, almost like old hymns, and at other times they are disjointed, fragmented utterances that give the impression of an ancient language long forgotten. One explorer recalled pausing mid-hike when the chanting began, a cold shiver running down his spine as the sound seemed to move closer, weaving between the rock formations and trees. Despite searching, he could never locate the source, leaving him with the eerie impression that the voices were following him, invisible and untouchable. The cliffs of Niihau also hold a reputation for spectral appearances. Visitors along these jagged edges have reported seeing shadowy figures standing near the precipices, their features obscured by mist and distance. These figures are rarely threatening, but their presence is unmistakable, often prompting a sudden urge to turn away or retreat. One hiker recounted seeing a figure on the edge of a cliff, gazing out toward the horizon, only for it to vanish moments later, leaving behind an inexplicable chill and a lingering sense of solitude that seemed heavier than the wind itself. Even the island's flora and fauna seem to contribute to the otherworldly atmosphere. The dense vegetation in the valleys can obscure vision, creating shadows that play tricks on the mind. Birds and small animals move with sudden, unexpected motions, sometimes startling visitors in ways that feel almost deliberate. The combination of isolation, rugged terrain, and subtle, unexplained activity creates an environment where the natural and supernatural seem intertwined, each amplifying the other in quiet, unsettling ways. Many who have explored Niihau speak of a profound, almost reverential fear. Unlike conventional haunted sites where spirits might interact aggressively, the island's ghosts are observant and patient. They do not rush or chase. Instead, they linger in the periphery, reminding visitors of their presence, through subtle sounds, a whisper of wind, through the grass, a distant echo of footsteps, or the sensation of being followed through the valleys. The effect is cumulative, layering unease over the breathtaking beauty of the island, until one begins to question the boundaries between what is seen and unseen. Paranormal investigators who have attempted to document Niue's phenomena face unique challenges. The island's restricted access limits the number of researchers, and the rough terrain makes prolonged exploration difficult. Nevertheless, reports of unexplained chanting, shadowy figures, and persistent feelings of observation continue to surface from the few who have been granted entry. Some suggest that Niue's isolation has preserved these spiritual remnants, allowing them to exist undisturbed for generations, untouched by modern development or intrusion. Niue's haunted reputation is further enriched by oral traditions passed down among the few local inhabitants. Stories of ancestors who walked the valleys and defended the cliffs have merged, with tales of spirits that linger long after death. These accounts emphasize respect and caution, warning visitors that the island is not merely land to be traversed, but a space alive with memory and presence. The island's spirits are said to test those who enter, observing intentions and rewarding or deterring accordingly, making every step along its valleys and cliffs an encounter with both history and the unexplained. In the end, Niue remains a place of paradox. It is beautiful, serene, and breathtakingly remote, yet it is also steeped in stories that chill the blood. The valleys and cliffs are silent witnesses to centuries of life, death, and lingering presence. Those who have walked its trails, even briefly, return with tales of unseen observers, faint chanting, and fleeting shadows that defy explanation. Niue is not merely a forbidden island by law or custom, it is a forbidden land in the truest sense, where the living tread carefully among the spirits of the past, and where every whisper of wind may carry a voice from beyond. For those who dream of visiting, Niue promises beauty intertwined with mystery. But it also offers a stark reminder that some places, though outwardly tranquil, remain alive with the echoes of lives once lived, and that the spirits of Niue's past continue to wander, watching, waiting, and whispering in the valleys and cliffs of this remote Hawaiian island. Kauai, often called the Garden Isle, is renowned for its lush landscapes, cascading waterfalls, and vibrant flora. But beneath this tropical paradise lies a layer of mystery and unrest. Among the island's dense forests and winding rivers, the Wailua River area stands out as a place steeped in both natural beauty and supernatural lore. For centuries, locals have whispered about ghostly sightings and unexplained phenomena along its banks and trails, telling stories of warriors, spirits, and lingering energy that refuses to rest. Travelers who venture into the region often leave with a sense that they have glimpsed something beyond the ordinary, a reminder that Kauai's charm is intertwined with the echoes of its past. The Wailua River area has long been considered sacred. Ancient Hawaiians built heiau, or temples, along the river, dedicating them to gods and ancestors. These sites were often guarded by skilled warriors, tasked with protecting the land and its spiritual significance. Legends suggest that the spirits of these warriors continue to patrol the river's edge and the misty trails that wind through the surrounding jungle. Locals report sightings of figures in traditional Hawaiian attire, moving silently among the trees, appearing and disappearing with the fog that often drifts over the river in the early evening. Some travelers describe seeing these figures standing motionless near the heiau, as if guarding the sacred grounds even centuries after their deaths. Visitors often speak of sudden cold spots that seem to appear without cause. One hiker recounted walking along a trail near the river at dusk when a sharp chill ran through the air. Despite the tropical warmth that had filled the day, the hair on the back of his neck stood on end, and a feeling of being watched settled over him. As he looked through the misty trees, he thought he saw a shadowy figure moving between the palms, only to vanish when he blinked. Similar experiences are frequently reported near the heiau, where the ancient stones and carved altars seem to hold the energy of the past. amplifying the sensation of presence and drawing visitors into a state of heightened awareness. The ancient Hau themselves are often the focal point of Kauai's supernatural activity. These stone temples, weathered by centuries of wind and rain, are silent witnesses to rituals, prayers, and ceremonies that took place long before modern visitors arrived. Those who explore the sites report a palpable weight in the air, a sensation of energy lingering from past inhabitants. Whispers are sometimes heard, faint and unintelligible, as though the voices of warriors and priests have been carried forward through time. One visitor recalled approaching an altar and suddenly feeling an invisible hand brush against her shoulder, causing a shiver to run down her spine. When she turned, no one was there, yet the sensation of being observed remained. Misty trails along the river provide another setting for eerie encounters. At dusk, when the fog settles over the water and creeps into the valleys, the environment transforms. Shadows stretch and twist, creating shapes that play tricks on the eyes, and travelers often report fleeting glimpses of figures standing silently among the trees. Some describe seeing warriors holding spears or staffs, their movements deliberate and purposeful, only to dissolve into the mist when approached. Others have sensed a presence walking alongside them on the trails, feeling steps echo in unison with their own, despite the forest being empty. These experiences leave an indelible impression, blending the natural beauty of Kauai with a profound sense of the supernatural. Sounds in the Wailua River area often add to the haunting atmosphere. Travelers speak of distant chants or low humming echoing across the river valleys. At times, the sound resembles rhythmic drumming, though no instruments or human sources are visible. These auditory phenomena seem to occur most frequently near the heiau or along paths that were once important ceremonial routes. Hikers have reported their hearts racing when the sounds rise and fall in cadence, as if guiding or warning them, or simply announcing the presence of spirits nearby. The combination of sights, sounds, and temperature shifts creates a sensory experience that is difficult to explain, leaving many visitors questioning whether they have witnessed ghosts, ancestral energy, or a heightened connection to the sacred land itself. Local lore emphasizes respect for the area. It is said that those who entered the Wailua River trails and howl with reverence are more likely to experience subtle, protective interactions with the spirits, while those who treat the land carelessly may encounter more unsettling phenomena. Stories of travelers feeling compelled to leave abruptly after unexplained chills, shadowy figures, or sudden, inexplicable noises reinforce the idea that the spirits of Kauai are ever present and attentive to human behavior. The island itself is alive with memory, and the Wailua River area acts as a focal point for the lingering presence of its ancestors. Even modern-day visitors, accustomed to technology and skepticism, often find themselves affected by the area's haunting. Photographs sometimes capture shadowy shapes or orbs of light that were not visible to the naked eye. Video recordings occasionally pick up indistinct figures moving across trails or near heiau, prompting discussions among researchers and enthusiasts about the persistence of spiritual energy. While skeptics may attribute these phenomena to mist, light, or imagination, the consistency of reports over decades suggests a deeper layer of experience unique to this sacred part of Kauai. Ultimately, the Garden Isle's haunting is a reminder of the island's rich history and spiritual significance. The Wailua River area, with its mist-covered valleys, ancient temples, and whispers of the past, serves as a bridge between the world of the living and the echoes of those who came before. Visitors who tread carefully along its trails often emerge with stories of shadowy warriors, sudden chills, and the ever-present feeling of being watched, leaving them with a sense that Kauai's beauty is inseparable from its mysteries. For anyone exploring Kauai, the Wailua River region offers more than scenic landscapes. It is a portal into a world where the past lingers, where the spirits of warriors continue their silent vigilance, where the Garden Isle reminds all who enter that some places, no matter how lush and vibrant, are forever haunted. Diamond Head, the iconic volcanic crater that towers over Honolulu, is celebrated for its panoramic views and historical significance. Tourists flock to its trails for sunrise hikes and breathtaking vistas. Yet beneath the natural beauty lies a layer of mystery that few expect. Locals and hikers alike have whispered of unusual occurrences on the crater's ridges, strange lights, ghostly figures, and footsteps echoing along empty paths. While most visitors come for the scenery, some leave with stories that suggest Diamond Head is far more than a geological wonder. It is a place where the past continues to linger, quietly observing the present. The history of Diamond Head provides a backdrop for these hauntings. Known in Hawaiian as Lo'achi, the crater has long been a site of cultural and strategic importance. Ancient Hawaiians used the area for ceremonies and as a lookout point, while during the 19th and early 20th centuries, it became a military fortification. Soldiers once patrolled the ridges, guarding the coastline and the growing city of Honolulu from perceived threats. It is these historical layers, ceremonial grounds, and military presence that are often cited as the source of the area's lingering spirits. Many believe that the echoes of the past are imprinted on the crater, replaying themselves in subtle, chilling ways for those who venture close. Hikers have reported hearing footsteps where no one else is present. Some describe the sound as distant and echoing, while others say it follows them along the narrow trails, matching their pace. One early morning hiker recounted feeling a presence behind him as he neared the summit. Despite looking back multiple times, the path was empty, yet the rhythmic tapping of footsteps continued, growing fainter only after he had reached the crater's edge. For those who experience it, the sensation is more than auditory. It carries a palpable awareness, as though an unseen companion is observing every step. Ghostly figures are another recurring phenomenon. Several hikers and local guides have claimed to see apparitions resembling Hawaiian soldiers of the 19th century, silently patrolling the ridges or standing sentinel near strategic vantage points. These figures often appear in the early morning fog or during twilight, partially obscured and faint, giving them an ethereal, almost dreamlike quality. Some witnesses describe them as fully uniformed, while others see shadowy outlines that vanish when approached. One hiker reported glimpsing a soldier gazing out over the ocean, holding a rifle in hand, only for the figure to fade into the mist as she attempted to draw nearer. The experience left her with an overwhelming sense of reverence and unease, a reminder that history can leave traces far beyond written records. Strange lights have also been reported near the summit. Some describe flickering orbs that float above the crater floor or along the ridges, moving in ways inconsistent with natural phenomena. Others have witnessed sudden flashes of light that illuminate paths for an instant, revealing shapes that vanish just as quickly. These occurrences are often accompanied by a feeling of being watched, as though the lights themselves are a manifestation of lingering attention, guiding, observing, or warning those who traverse the trails. Photographers and paranormal investigators have captured anomalies in their images: blurs, orbs, and faint silhouettes that defy logical explanation, further solidifying Diamond Head's reputation as a site of supernatural activity. The crater's summit, with its commanding views of Honolulu and the Pacific, seems to act as a magnet for these unexplained events. Visitors frequently describe sudden drops in temperature, a stark contrast to the tropical warmth of the surrounding landscape. Some report feeling a heavy presence pressing on their shoulders, or an inexplicable tension in the air that heightens every sound. Even the wind, which normally carries only the scent of salt and grass, can take on an eerie quality, whispering through the cracks and crevices of the crater in ways that amplify the sense of otherworldly observation. Beyond individual encounters, Diamond Head seems to have a cumulative effect on those who explore it. The combination of footsteps, apparitions, lights, and chilling atmospheric shifts creates an immersive experience that touches more than the senses. It engages a visitor's awareness, intuition, and imagination. Many hikers leave the crater with stories of fleeting glances, disembodied sounds, and moments of heightened unease, finding themselves reflecting on the history embedded in the volcanic walls. For some, these experiences inspire curiosity and fascination. For others, a deep respect, tinged with apprehension. Local lore reinforces these encounters, Residents speak of the crater as a place where the spirits of soldiers and possibly even ancient Hawaiians linger, watching over the land they once defended and revered. It is said that those who approach Diamond Head with respect may witness subtle, protective manifestations, while those who disregard the area or treat it carelessly might experience disconcerting disturbances. The mountain, in essence, maintains a dialogue with visitors, responding to intention, awareness, and presence. Even with the influx of tourists, Diamond Head retains its mysterious qualities. The well-worn trails, the wind-swept ridges, and the panoramic views are all familiar and comforting to most hikers. Yet for those attuned to the unusual, the crater can reveal glimpses of history in spectral form. Whether it is the echo of unseen footsteps, the fleeting presence of a soldier, or the sudden appearance of ghostly lights, the spirit of Diamond Head is a quiet but persistent reminder that the past is never truly gone. For those who ascend its slopes, Diamond Head offers more than spectacular vistas and a sense of achievement. It provides an encounter with the echoes of history, the lingering presence of warriors, and a subtle but undeniable connection to something beyond the physical world. In this iconic Hawaiian landmark, beauty and mystery coexist, offering a haunting experience that lingers long after the descent back to Honolulu streets. The crater is a testament to the island's layered past, a place where the living walk among the whispers of those who came before, and where the spirit of Diamond Head silently watches over all who tread its paths. Molokai, often called the Friendly Isle, is known for its unspoiled landscapes and slow, serene pace of life. Yet beneath its natural beauty lies a history that casts long, lingering shadows. Nowhere is this more apparent than on the Kalapapa Peninsula, a remote and isolated area that once served as a leprosy settlement. The peninsula's isolation, rugged cliffs, and untamed landscapes have preserved both its physical and spiritual remnants, creating an atmosphere that is both haunting and solemn. Visitors who venture here often report experiences that defy explanation: faint voices, unseen footsteps, and shadowy figures that seem to vanish into the dense jungle, leaving an eerie sense that the past has never truly let go. Kalapapa's history is the foundation of its haunting. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, those diagnosed with leprosy, or Hansen's disease, were forcibly exiled to the peninsula, cut off from their families and communities. The settlement was remote, bordered by towering cliffs and the vast Pacific Ocean, making escape nearly impossible. Residents endured harsh living conditions, isolation, and the heartbreak of separation from loved ones. Many lived and died there, their stories of suffering, resilience, and quiet dignity echoing through the landscape. Locals and those who have visited claim that the spirits of these exiled souls remain, lingering along the cliffs, pathways, and abandoned structures, silently observing anyone who enters their domain. Visitors frequently report hearing faint voices that seem to carry on the wind, echoing across the peninsula and through the overgrown trails. These whispers are subtle, sometimes indistinguishable from the natural sounds of rustling leaves or distant waves. Yet they often convey a sense of presence, soft, plaintive murmurs that seem to speak directly to the heart. One hiker recounted walking along an abandoned path near the old hospital when he distinctly heard multiple voices whispering names and fragments of conversation. Despite searching the area, he found no one, only the dense greenery and silent remnants of the settlement. The experience left him with an uneasy feeling that someone, or something, had been watching him the entire time. The sound of shuffling footsteps is another commonly reported phenomenon. Guests often describe hearing the soft, deliberate tread of someone walking along the old pathways or wooden structures, though no living person is present. These footsteps sometimes follow visitors, echoing along the edges of cliffs or across abandoned courtyards, only to vanish when approached. One woman recalled pausing mid-step, listening to the shuffle coming closer, her heart racing as she turned around to confront it. Yet the trail behind her remained empty. The footsteps stop abruptly, leaving only the lingering sensation of a presence that is both sorrowful and aware. Shadowy figures are perhaps the most unsettling encounters reported on Molokai. Visitors have glimpsed dark, human-shaped silhouettes disappearing into the dense jungle or along cliff edges, often in peripheral vision. These figures are rarely threatening. They appear to be observers rather than aggressors, sometimes standing motionless, sometimes moving slowly before dissolving into mist or foliage. One photographer claimed to have caught a fleeting image of a figure in an abandoned building, its outline barely discernible, but unmistakably human, disappearing the moment he raised his camera. Such encounters leave an indelible impression, as though the island itself preserves the memory of those who once walked its trails. The peninsula's isolation amplifies the haunting atmosphere. The towering sea cliffs, the roar of the Pacific, and the overgrown trails create a sense of remoteness that can feel overwhelming to the unprepared visitor. In this solitude, natural sounds, the rustle of leaves, the distant crash of waves, the calls of birds take on a different quality, sometimes blending with whispers and footsteps to create an eerie symphony of presence. Hikers and researchers alike have commented on the sensation that the peninsula is alive with memory, that every structure, path, and cliff holds the imprints of those who endured its hardships. Kalapapa's abandoned structures, from old homes to hospitals, add another layer to its spectral nature. Windows are often broken, doors hang ajar, and the buildings are overrun with nature. Yet some visitors feel as though someone is still inside, moving quietly among the ruins. Shadows cast by the setting sun can create shapes that mimic human figures, but many who have spent time on the peninsula insist that these shapes are more than mere illusions. They carry the weight of history and human experience. These remnants of the settlement act as silent reminders of suffering, resilience, and lingering presence, and they often provoke a mixture of awe and unease in those who encounter them. Locals and guides who know the peninsula well speak of respect as a guiding principle. It is said that approaching Kalapapa with humility and reverence allows visitors to witness its mysteries in a less frightening way, while disrespect or haste can invite more unsettling encounters. The spirits of the exiled are believed to be watchful and protective of the land, and their presence is felt most strongly when the heart and mind are attuned to the weight of history and memory. Even for those who are skeptical, the island leaves a mark. The combination of shadowy figures, whispers, footsteps, and the palpable presence of history creates an experience unlike any other in Hawaii. Kalapapa is not merely a scenic or historical site. It is a place where human emotion, memory, and spirit converge, lingering in ways that are tangible and haunting. Molokai's Kalapapa Peninsula stands as a silent testament to human suffering and endurance. The voices in the wind, the shuffling footsteps along abandoned trails, and the shadowy figures glimpsed among the trees all serve as reminders that the past is never truly gone. For those who venture here, the island offers more than breathtaking views and solitude. It offers a profound encounter with the lingering souls of those who once called it home, a haunting experience that lingers long after the visitor has left the island of shadows. Lanai, often called the Pineapple Island, is a place of quiet beauty, rolling hills, and a history that is both rich and haunting. While the island today is known for its luxury resorts and tranquil beaches, it was once dominated by vast pineapple plantations where generations of workers toiled under harsh conditions to cultivate the fruit that would become the island's signature crop. Beneath the lush landscapes and seemingly peaceful fields lies a shadowed past stories of hardship, sorrow, and lingering spirits. Visitors exploring the old plantation areas and abandoned homesteads often report experiences that suggest the island's history refuses to rest, manifesting in ghostly whispers, flickering lights, and the sensation of being watched. The story of Lanai's pineapple plantations is one of endurance and sacrifice. Laborers, many brought from distant lands, worked long hours under the tropical sun, tending to acres of fields and enduring grueling physical labor. Accidents were common, and medical care was limited, leading to countless deaths over decades. Over time, the plantations declined, and many of the workers' homes and fields were abandoned, leaving behind structures overgrown with grass and wild vegetation. According to local legends, The spirits of those who labored and died still inhabit these areas, their presence occasionally breaking through the quiet of the night. Travelers and explorers of Lanai often report strange lights hovering over the old fields and abandoned farmhouses. These orbs of light are typically seen at dusk or after dark, floating silently above the overgrown grass or along the edges of decaying structures. Some describe the lights as soft and warm, like lanterns carried by unseen hands, while others report sharper, colder glows that seem to watch from a distance. One visitor recalled walking along a trail through a former pineapple field when several lights appeared in a row, moving rhythmically as if marching, before fading into the darkness. Such sightings are often accompanied by a palpable chill, reinforcing the sense that these are not mere fireflies or distant lanterns, but manifestations of something beyond the ordinary. Ghostly whispers are another common phenomenon reported on Lanai. Visitors frequently describe hearing soft, indistinct murmurs among the tall grass, voices that seem to drift on the wind, impossible to locate, yet unmistakably human in tone. Some claim the whispers carry fragments of conversation from the past directions, complaints, or brief greetings, while others report hearing faint chanting, reminiscent of workers communicating across the fields. One hiker recounted pausing mid-step, listening as a gentle voice repeated a phrase in an unfamiliar language, only to realize that no one was nearby. These auditory experiences leave a lingering sense of presence, as if the spirits of the past are observing or guiding those who pass through their former domain. Abandoned farmhouses and structures add to the eerie atmosphere of the island. Many buildings are overrun with weeds and vines, their roofs sagging and windows shattered. Inside, the remnants of daily life, rusted tools, broken furniture, and scattered personal items create a tangible connection to the people who once inhabited them. Visitors often report feeling watched as they move through these spaces, sensing the attention of invisible observers. Shadows flicker across walls, or doors creak without cause, and some explorers claim to have glimpsed human-shaped silhouettes disappearing behind corners or through open doorways. The combination of physical decay and lingering spiritual energy creates an environment where the line between past and present blurs. The surrounding fields themselves hold a quiet power. At night, the tall grass sways in the breeze, producing sounds that mimic footsteps or the shuffle of workers moving unseen. Some hikers have reported feeling sudden cold spots as they pass through particularly overgrown areas, as if the spirits of those who once toiled there are brushing past or passing through them. The whispers, the orbs, and the shifting shadows are all part of a subtle, cumulative experience that draws visitors into a heightened state of awareness, leaving them with a sense that the island remembers every step, every hardship, and every life once lived. Local folklore emphasizes respect for the land. Stories warn that the spirits are most present near sites of former labor and tragedy, and that those who enter with reverence are more likely to encounter subtle, even protective manifestations, while careless intrusion may provoke stronger, unsettling experiences. Many of the orbs, whispers, and fleeting figures are believed to be the lingering echoes of workers watching over the land they once cultivated, preserving the memory of their labor and suffering. These spirits are not malevolent in the traditional sense, but their presence is undeniable, a quiet testimony to the island's history and the lives of those who made it thrive. These visual phenomena, combined with first-hand accounts of whispers and sudden chills, reinforce the island's reputation as a place where the past continues to exist alongside the present. The plantations, though silent and overgrown, are alive with memory, allowing visitors a rare glimpse into the lives of those who walked the fields long ago. Lanai's haunted pineapple fields are a reminder that beauty and hardship often coexist. While the island today is celebrated for its serene landscapes and luxury escapes, the remnants of its labor-intensive past remain, both physically and spiritually. Those who explore its abandoned fields, overgrown trails, and deserted homesteads encounter more than scenery. They encounter echoes of lives once lived, whispers of struggle and endurance, and the quiet, persistent presence of those who never fully left. For travelers who venture into Lanai's old pineapple fields, the experience is both haunting and humbling. The glowing orbs, whispering voices, and shadowy figures are not just supernatural curiosities. They are reminders of human resilience, suffering, and memory. The island's history is etched into the land, and the spirits who linger among the tall grass ensure that the story of Lanai's laborers is never forgotten. Their presence quietly, watching over the fields where they once toiled. Hawaii's Big Island is renowned for its staggering natural beauty, from lush rainforests to sweeping coastlines. Yet few places on the island carry as much fear as the volcanic landscapes surrounding Kilauea. This active volcano is more than a geological marvel. It is a living, breathing presence, steeped in legend and power. Locals speak of Pele, the goddess of fire, who commands both respect and fear, appearing to warn, punish, or simply remind mortals of her dominion. Visitors who venture near Kilauea's molten edges often return with accounts of unexplained phenomena. Sudden gusts of scorching wind, fiery apparitions, and eerie red glows that seem to move with intention, suggesting that the volcano itself is imbued with a spirit energy that refuses to be ignored. Kilauea's volcanic activity has long shaped both the land and the culture of Hawaii. For centuries, Pele has been revered and feared, her presence intertwined with lava flows, eruptions, and the creation of new land. Folklore tells of the goddess traveling across the Big Island, shaping mountains, valleys, and coastlines. Her temperamental nature evident in both destructive eruptions and bountiful lava flows. Those who venture near Kilauea are reminded that the earth beneath their feet is alive, not merely in a physical sense, but as a conduit for ancient spiritual energy. Hikers and explorers often recount moments when the natural heat of the volcano seems to intensify inexplicably. Gusts of hot wind striking without warning, as if to assert the presence of something greater than themselves. Many visitors report seeing fiery apparitions along the volcanic trails, shapes of flickering light and shadow that defy natural explanation. Some describe glowing figures dancing along lava fields, their forms appearing humanoid yet fluid, almost as if composed of molten fire. Others see bright, shifting glows that hover above fissures, appearing to watch those who approach, then retreating as though nudged by unseen forces. One hiker recalled standing near a lava tube when a sudden red glow enveloped the area, illuminating the darkened landscape in a surreal, otherworldly light. Within that glow, shapes seemed to move and shift with intention, leaving him convinced that the volcano itself was alive, observing his every movement. Sudden temperature shifts and gusts of hot wind are another common phenomenon reported by those exploring Kilauea. Hikers describe moments when the air becomes searingly warm, far beyond the ambient heat of the day, often accompanied by the sensation of an unseen presence pressing in or brushing past. These occurrences are unpredictable, sometimes following moments of silence or solitude, suggesting that the forces at play are responsive to human presence. Visitors often feel a deep respect, tinged with fear, for the raw power of the volcano and the spiritual energy it channels. Sensing that the land itself holds the memories and warnings of Pele, the red glows that appear across lava fields and crater edges are especially unsettling. Unlike the predictable glow of molten rock, these lights seem to shift, move, and pulse with a rhythm that is almost lifelike. Some witnesses have described the glow forming shapes resembling figures in motion, darting across the terrain or hovering in place as if observing intruders. Others report that the lights appear along paths where no active lava is visible, creating the impression that unseen forces are at work. Many hikers, when confronted with such phenomena, describe a mixture of awe and dread, feeling as though they are intruding on sacred ground where the boundary between the natural and supernatural is blurred. Local lore underscores the importance of respect and caution. Pele is said to appear to those who take the land lightly, delivering warnings in the form of unusual activity, glowing apparitions, shifting lights, or sudden heat. Those who honor the volcano and its sacred nature may witness subtler, protective manifestations, while disrespectful behavior can provoke more intense and frightening experiences. The stories passed down through generations emphasize that the spirit of the land is alive, aware, and capable of both blessing and retribution. Hikers often heed these tales, approaching the volcanic terrain with humility and reverence, knowing that the goddess they invoke in legend is more than myth to those who tread her domain. Sounds also play a role in the haunting atmosphere of Kilauea. Occasionally, hikers report faint rumblings, hissing noises, or distant cracking sounds that seem too rhythmic or deliberate to be purely natural. Some interpret these as the whispers or movements of Pele herself, echoing through the volcanic valleys and craters. When combined with visual phenomena, sudden gusts of wind, and the heat that rises from fissures and vents, these auditory experiences enhance the impression of a conscious, spiritual presence. Visitors often describe a sense of being watched or guided, as though the volcano responds to their intentions and movements in subtle, inescapable ways. Even experienced hikers and scientists admit to moments of unease on Kilauea. The unpredictable nature of the volcano, combined with centuries of cultural and spiritual lore, creates an environment where the ordinary and extraordinary coexist. Fiery shapes, unexplained glows, gusts of heat, and the weight of history combine to produce an immersive, almost hypnotic experience. Many who have walked the lava trails describe leaving with a deep respect for the land and a lingering awareness that the spirits of Pele and the volcanic past are never far away. Hawaii's Big Island, and Kilauea in particular, is a reminder that the natural world can hold both awe-inspiring beauty and subtle terror. The fiery apparitions, gusts of hot wind, and mysterious red glows are not just curiosities, they are expressions of an enduring spiritual energy, the presence of a goddess who shapes the land and watches over all who traverse it. For those who venture near Kilauea, the experience is transformative, a brush with forces beyond the ordinary, a dance with fire and spirit, and a haunting reminder that the Big Island is alive not only in its landscapes, but in its history, legends, and enduring volcanic spirits. Pearl Harbor, etched into history as the site of a devastating attack that propelled the United States into World War II, is a place of remembrance, reflection, and solemnity. Yet, beyond the historical markers, museums, and memorials, the harbor carries a quieter, more spectral presence. Locals, guides, and visitors alike have long whispered that the spirits of the soldiers who perished during the attack linger across the naval base, silently observing, walking through old barracks, and inhabiting areas long abandoned. These hauntings are subtle yet persistent, an invisible layer atop a location already heavy with memory and loss. The attacks of December 7, 1941, left thousands dead and countless others wounded, with the harbor itself transformed into a chaotic battlefield. Ships burned, planes fell, and barracks and facilities were left scarred by fire and debris. For those who perished, their final moments were filled with fear, confusion, and courage. It is said that this intensity of emotion has imprinted itself upon the very grounds of Pearl Harbor, creating an energy that endures to this day. Many who walk the grounds report an almost tangible feeling of presence, as if the soldiers continue their watch, bound by duty and the unresolved chaos of that day. Visitors frequently speak of cold drafts that seem to appear without explanation. One guide recounted walking through a section of old barracks when a sudden chill swept through, causing the hair on his arms to stand on end despite the tropical heat outside. Others describe similar sensations in hallways and abandoned buildings, with temperatures dropping suddenly and returning to normal just as inexplicably. These cold spots are often accompanied by a sense of unease or anticipation, as though unseen eyes are observing every movement, and footsteps or murmurs might follow if one lingers too long in quiet spaces. Unexplained whispers are another common phenomenon at Pearl Harbor. Guests report hearing faint voices in areas where no one is present, snippets of conversation, indistinct commands, or the quiet murmurs of men recalling memories or relaying instructions. One visitor described standing in a hallway of an abandoned administrative building when he heard a voice clearly call out a name that belonged to no one there. The sound was fleeting, fading as quickly as it arrived, but it left an unmistakable impression, a reminder that the past is never entirely gone and that those who suffered here may still be trying to communicate. Across the divide between life and death, shadows are perhaps the most unsettling experiences reported at Pearl Harbor. Observers have glimpsed fleeting figures moving through barracks, behind windows, or across courtyards, outlines that vanish when approached or when the viewer blinks. These shapes are often humanoid, sometimes resembling soldiers in period uniforms, and they seem to move with purpose, as though performing tasks left incomplete in life. One historian visiting the base recounted seeing a figure at the end of a hallway, standing at attention before disappearing entirely when he stepped forward. The experience left him shaken, with a profound sense that he had witnessed a moment out of time, a memory of life lingering stubbornly in the present. Even open areas of the naval base are not exempt from eerie phenomena. Some visitors describe a subtle weight in the air, along abandoned docks or near old storage buildings, an impression of being watched even in broad daylight. Others have reported hearing distant clanging or the soft groan of metal, sounds reminiscent of the machinery and operations of a functioning naval facility. In these moments, the harbor seems to blur the line between past and present, allowing echoes of the attack and its aftermath to bleed into the experience of modern visitors. Blurred figures, unexplained lights, and shadows captured on film often cannot be attributed to passing visitors or natural phenomena. While skeptics may argue that imagination and history's weight influence perception, the consistency of reports from guides, locals, and historians over decades suggests that Pearl Harbor carries something unusual within its walls. Those sensitive to energy or attuned to the emotional residue of trauma often leave the base with a heightened awareness of presence, sensing layers of history folded into the environment. The haunting of Pearl Harbor is not overtly aggressive or malevolent. Unlike traditional ghost stories, the spirits here seem bound to memory and duty. They are observers, witnesses, and perhaps remnants of soldiers unable to move beyond the harbor's shores. Guides often advise visitors to approach the site with reverence and awareness, noting that the soldier's energy is strongest in areas where trauma, death, and daily life intersected. Those who treat the space with respect are more likely to feel subtle interactions, cold spots, whispers, fleeting shadows, while those who are careless may experience moments of discomfort or unease. Even amidst the bustling visitors and ceremonies, Pearl Harbor retains a spectral layer that cannot be ignored. The memories of those who fell, their courage, and the tragedy of the attack are woven into the very fabric of the base. The cold drafts, whispers, and shadowy figures are quiet reminders that history is not only recorded in stone and plaque, but also in the lingering presence of those who lived and died in its most defining moments. Pearl Harbor stands as a place of remembrance, but also as a place where the past persists in unseen ways. Visitors who walk its abandoned barracks, docks, and paths may feel a whisper in the wind, a chill along their skin, or catch a fleeting shadow at the corner of their vision. These experiences serve as an enduring testament to the spirits of the fallen, echoing the courage, fear, and unresolved presence of those who once called Pearl Harbor home. In this space, history is alive, and the souls of the soldiers continue their silent watch, reminding all who visit that some places never truly forget. Princeville, on the northern coast of Kauai, is often celebrated for its breathtaking cliffs, lush valleys, and scenic ocean views. Visitors come to admire the natural beauty, to hike winding trails, and to wander through areas steeped in history. Yet beneath the idyllic landscapes lies a quieter, more unsettling story. Locals speak in hushed tones about restless spirits that linger near the old sugarcane fields, their presence tied to the land's history and the lives of those who once labored there. Travelers who wander the area at twilight often recount encounters that defy explanation. Figures in traditional Hawaiian attire, faces blurred or shrouded in mist, moving silently among ruins as if replaying the lives they lived long ago. The history of Princeville is central to its haunting. During the plantation era, the region was a hub for sugarcane cultivation. Workers, many brought from distant lands or descendants of native Hawaiians, labored long hours under the tropical sun. The work was grueling, and injuries and deaths were not uncommon. Over the decades, these laborers became intimately connected to the land, shaping it with their toil and sustaining themselves within its valleys and hills. When the sugarcane industry declined, many of the fields were abandoned, leaving behind structures, machinery, and paths overgrown with grass and vines. According to legend, the spirits of these workers never fully left, bound to the landscapes that defined their lives. Visitors to Princeville have reported an array of eerie experiences in the twilight hours. One common account is seeing figures dressed in traditional Hawaiian attire moving slowly through the fields. These figures often appear partially obscured by mist or shadows, making their features difficult to discern. Some travelers describe witnessing people walking among the ruins, bending as if tending to the land, only for the figures to vanish when approached. The silent movements, combined with the fading light, create an atmosphere where the boundary between the living and the spectral becomes blurred. The old sugarcane fields themselves contribute to the unsettling energy of the area. The tall, dense stalks sway in the wind, producing sounds that can mimic footsteps or distant voices. Hikers and explorers often report feeling watched, even in areas where no one else is present. One visitor recalled pausing near a rusted water trough when he felt a presence behind him. He turned to see a blurred figure disappearing into the fog, leaving him with an intense, inexplicable chill. For many, these experiences are subtler movement in the corner of the eye, a whisper carried on the wind, or a sudden shift in temperature, but they leave a lasting impression that lingers long after leaving Princeville. Abandoned structures near the fields amplify the island's spectral atmosphere. Old plantation homes, warehouses, and tool sheds are overtaken by vines and weathered by years of sun and rain. Shadows move across broken windows or sagging walls, often in ways that seem purposeful. Visitors have recounted hearing soft murmurs or faint laughter echoing from within these structures, sounds that cannot be attributed to animals or the wind. Some report the sensation of being followed through overgrown paths, only to find themselves completely alone when they turn around. These encounters contribute to the sense that Princeville is not only beautiful, but also alive with the memory of those who came before. Twilight is a particularly potent time for experiencing the area's hauntings. As the sun sets, mist often rolls in from the cliffs, shrouding the valleys and the abandoned fields. Shadows stretch and shift, creating the perfect conditions for apparitions to appear. Many witnesses describe the figures as partially transparent, faces obscured or blurred, moving with a slow, deliberate rhythm. One hiker noted seeing a group of figures walking in formation along an old cane trail, disappearing into the fog as he approached. The experience left him shaken, as if he had glimpsed a scene from the past, replaying itself in the present. Sounds play a critical role in the haunting as well. The wind through the cane stalks, distant birds, and rustling leaves sometimes seem to carry fragments of conversation or soft chanting. Some visitors have reported hearing the faint hum of tools at work, or the distant call of a foreman, echoing as if time itself were bending. These subtle auditory cues heighten the sense of presence, reinforcing the idea that the spirits are active, attentive, and connected to the land they once labored on. Local lore emphasizes respect for these restless spirits. Guides and residents warn that the apparitions are most active in areas where labor was most intense, and where lives were lost or hardships endured. Those who approach Princeville's old fields with humility often experience quieter, more ethereal manifestations, while those who enter carelessly may feel a more intense and unsettling presence. It is said that the spirits are not malevolent. They are observers, guardians of their land, and echoes of a history that should not be forgotten. Photographs and amateur videos occasionally capture anomalies in the area, faint figures, blurs of motion, and flickering lights that cannot be explained. These visual manifestations, combined with first-hand accounts of cold chills, whispers, and blurred figures, create a compelling case for the lingering presence of Princeville's past inhabitants. For many visitors, the haunting becomes a profound experience, a reminder of the lives, struggles, and enduring spirits that shaped the island long before modern development. Princeville's haunted sugarcane fields are a testament to the passage of time and the persistence of memory. The figures in mist, the whispers through the grass, and the shadowy movements among ruins remind all who visit that history is never truly gone. The Garden Isles' northern coast offers more than scenic vistas. It is a place where the labor, life, and lingering spirits of the past continue to watch, guiding them, and sometimes silently communicating with those who walk among them. For travelers, the beauty of Princeville comes with a subtle, haunting presence of those who remain, echoing across the fields of this storied Hawaiian town. Mauna Loa, a quiet village on the western coast of Molokai, is often admired for its serene landscapes and unassuming charm. Surrounded by rolling hills and the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, it appears peaceful by day, a place where time seems to move more slowly. Yet beneath this tranquil exterior, the village carries a dark legacy, whispered among locals for generations. Mauna Loa was shaped not only by its natural beauty, but by the struggles and suffering endured during colonial-era conflicts, when the island's people faced violence, displacement, and hardship. Residents and visitors alike have reported eerie phenomena at night, anguished cries echoing across empty streets, objects moving inexplicably within abandoned homes, and the persistent sense of being watched that suggests the spirits of the past have never truly left. The history of Mauna Loa is central to its haunting. During the colonial era, the village and surrounding lands were scenes of unrest and conflict. Hawaiian residents faced encroachment from foreign settlers, the imposition of new laws, and the loss of ancestral lands. Many suffered from physical violence, forced relocation, and profound emotional trauma. Over time, these experiences left lasting marks not only on the community, but, according to local belief, on the land itself. Old structures, long abandoned, are said to hold the energy of those who lived and died in hardship, their presence manifesting in whispers, sudden movements, and chilling sensations that linger into the modern era. Nighttime is when Mauna Loa's hauntings are most frequently reported. Villagers often describe hearing anguished cries echoing from the hills or along deserted streets. The sounds are subtle, at first a distant wail, a hushed moan, but they grow clearer and more piercing as one listens, as if the voices of the past are attempting to communicate or seek release. One resident recounted sitting on his porch after sunset when he heard what seemed like a chorus of voices, rising and falling with emotion, yet no one was visible. The cries were human in tone, heavy with sorrow, and carried across the still night air, leaving a lasting impression of loss and grief. Objects moving mysteriously within old homes and abandoned structures add another layer of unease. Doors creak open without wind, chairs shift slightly on their own, and tools or personal items are occasionally found displaced from where they had been left. One visitor, exploring a long-deserted homestead, reported stepping into a room only to see a table slowly tilt as if pushed by an unseen hand, then settle back into place. Another described hearing footsteps pacing above a silent hallway, though the house had only one story. These incidents, while subtle, are enough to convince locals that the energy of those who suffered in the village persists, interacting with the physical world in ways that cannot be explained. The geography of Mauna Loa enhances its spectral qualities. Nestled near hills and valleys that funnel wind and sound, the village amplifies even the faintest noises. Hikers and night wanderers often report hearing footsteps or whispers moving alongside them, as though spirits are shadowing their path. Some claim to see fleeting shadows at the edge of vision, figures that vanish when directly looked at but leave an unmistakable impression of movement. The natural mist that sometimes rolls off the hills adds an ethereal quality to these experiences, blurring the boundary between reality and apparition. Local residents share stories of encounters that combine sound, movement, and vision. A farmer recalled walking through his empty barn after dusk when he heard what sounded like hushed arguing nearby. Turning toward the source, he saw a shadowy figure crossing the barn in the corner of his eye, only to vanish moments later. Another villager described hearing the laughter of children in the abandoned schoolhouse, place long unused, yet when investigated, no children or animals were present. These accounts are consistent across generations, passed down as both warnings and acknowledgments of the lingering presence that inhabits Mauna Loa's night. Even for those unfamiliar with the village's history, the energy is palpable. Visitors often feel sudden chills when passing abandoned homes or walking along deserted streets, accompanied by a sense of being watched. The village itself seems to hold memory within its structures and landscape, a living record of pain, endurance, and unresolved emotion. Photographs and videos occasionally capture anomalous shadows or faint light forms where none should exist, further fueling the perception that Mauna Loa is more than it seems, a place where history and spirit coexist. Local lore emphasizes the importance of respect when moving through. Those who treat the village with reverence are more likely to encounter subtle signs, whispers in the wind, fleeting shadows, or a gentle feeling of guidance. Conversely, visitors who ignore the history or tread carelessly often experience more unsettling phenomena, as if the spirits are responding to intrusion. In this way, the village maintains a dialogue with the living, quietly enforcing the memory of its past, while guiding those who honor it. The hauntings of Mauna Loa serve as a reminder that the past is never truly gone. The anguished cries, shifting objects, and fleeting shadows are echoes of colonial-era suffering, evidence that those who endured hardship remain connected to the land they once inhabited. For travelers and residents alike, the village is not merely a picturesque location. It is a place where memory, grief, and lingering spirits converge. In Mauna Loa, the night carries stories that cannot be spoken aloud, whispers that persist across decades, and the quiet presence of souls who continue to watch over a land marked by both beauty and sorrow. Lahaina, on the western coast of Maui, is a town steeped in history and haunted by echoes of the past. Once the capital of the Hawaiian kingdom, it was a bustling center of governance, commerce, and culture. Over the centuries, Lahaina has witnessed battles, wailing tragedies, devastating fires, and periods of colonial upheaval, leaving behind an atmosphere rich with memory and, according to locals, lingering spirits. Visitors wandering the historic streets, piers, and harbors often report phenomena that defy explanation. Phantom ships appearing in the mist, shadowy sailors pacing the docks, and ghostly figures peering from centuries-old windows, as though the town itself remembers every life, every struggle, and every tragedy that unfolded here. The harbor of Lahaina has long been a focal point for both commerce and calamity. During the whaling era of the 19th century, the town thrived with sailors, traders, and ships arriving from across the Pacific. The harbor teemed with activity, but it was also the site of numerous accidents and deaths. Sailors lost at sea, dockside mishaps, and violent storms claimed countless lives. It is said that the spirits of these mariners remain forever tied to the water where they once lived and died. Visitors have reported seeing shadowy silhouettes of ships, their sails faintly outlined against the twilight sky, appearing to glide silently along the harbor before fading into mist. Some describe hearing the creak of timbers and the muffled clang of anchors, though no vessel is present, leaving an unnerving sense that the past is reaching across time. The piers and docks of Lahaina are frequently the site of ghostly encounters. Tourists and locals alike have reported seeing figures dressed in period sailor attire walking along the wooden planks, sometimes pacing deliberately as if carrying out unseen duties, other times moving aimlessly as though lost between worlds. One evening, a visitor described seeing a sailor leaning against a railing, staring out to sea, his form translucent and shimmering in the moonlight. When approached, the figure vanished, leaving only the echo of a faint sigh. Other witnesses have recounted fleeting glimpses of sailors disappearing around corners or through fog. Their presence felt more as an awareness than a visual apparition. These encounters are often accompanied by sudden chills or a subtle sense of being observed, as though the spirits are perpetually watching over their old domain. Lahaina streets and historic buildings carry their own spectral legacy. Fires that ravaged the town in the 19th and early 20th centuries destroyed much of its original architecture. yet many structures survived or were rebuilt using the remnants of the old. Visitors often report seeing ghostly figures peering from windows, especially in buildings dating back centuries. These apparitions are usually fleeting, glimpsed from the corner of the eye, yet their presence is undeniable. Some describe seeing people dressed in colonial-era clothing, performing mundane activities like sweeping floors, opening doors, or moving quietly through hallways, only to vanish when directly observed. The phenomena create a living tableau of Lahaina's past, a town frozen in fragments of memory. Sounds are a recurring element in the hauntings of Lahaina. Beyond visual sightings, visitors have reported hearing faint footsteps echoing along empty streets, distant voices carrying over the harbor, and the occasional clang of ship equipment or bell. One local historian recalled exploring a deserted warehouse near the waterfront when he heard the unmistakable sounds of sailors talking and laughing. Though the building had long been abandoned, these auditory experiences, often subtle yet persistent, reinforced a sense that Lahaina's history is not only recorded in books and plaques, but also etched into the environment itself. The combination of maritime tragedy, colonial upheaval, and natural disaster has created a dense, layered atmosphere in Lahaina. Shadowy figures on the docks, phantom ships gliding through the harbor, and ghostly presences in historic buildings all contribute to an immersive experience for those sensitive to unusual phenomena. Many visitors describe a heightened awareness of the past as they walk through the town, feeling a connection to events long ended, yet persistently alive in the environment. The town's energy is said to be strongest at dusk, when the fading light casts long shadows across streets and piers, and the mist from the ocean drifts inland, blurring the line between past and present. Local folklore emphasizes respect for these spirits. The ghostly sailors, town residents, and phantom ships are not considered malevolent, but are viewed as remnants of history, demanding acknowledgement. Guides often advise visitors to tread carefully through the old streets, to approach historic sites with reverence, and to be mindful of the town's layered past. Those who honor the memory of the deceased often report subtler, more profound encounters, while disregard can lead to heightened feelings of unease. Photographs and amateur recordings occasionally capture anomalies. Blurred figures in period clothing, faint lights resembling lanterns, or shadows that do not match any living presence, combined with first-hand accounts of whispers, footsteps, and sudden chills. These occurrences reinforce the idea that Lahaina is more than a scenic tourist destination. It is a place where history and spirit coexist, entwined in a haunting yet captivating presence. Lahaina's colonial-era spirits offer a unique glimpse into the past. A town where the lives of sailors, townspeople, and victims of disaster continue to leave their mark. From phantom ships in the harbor, to shadowy figures on the piers and ghostly residents in old buildings, the town is alive with memory. For those who wander its streets and docks at dusk or in the quiet of night, the echoes of history are impossible to ignore. Lahaina is a reminder that beauty, tragedy, and memory can coexist in the same space, and that the spirits of the past sometimes linger, silently observing the world that has moved on without them. Hilo, on the eastern side of Hawaii's Big Island, is known for its lush rainforests, cascading waterfalls, and the powerful energy of the Pacific Ocean crashing against its coastline. Yet beneath the natural beauty of Hilo's shores lies a history tinged with tragedy and mystery. Fishermen, residents, and visitors have long whispered of ghostly apparitions along the coast, spirits of drowned sailors, drifting lights, and shadowy shapes that appear in the early morning mist or under the cover of night. These sightings are subtle yet persistent, creating an unsettling awareness that the ocean, for all its life-giving beauty, also holds memories of lives lost to its depths. The waters off Hilo have always been both a source of sustenance and danger. Generations of sailors and fishermen have relied on the ocean for their livelihoods, yet storms, rogue waves, and sudden currents have claimed many lives. In times before modern navigational tools, these dangers were even greater, leaving countless individuals lost at sea. Local folklore suggests that the spirits of these drowned sailors do not rest quietly beneath the waves. Instead, they linger near the coast, drawn by familiar landmarks, returning in spectral form to the places they once knew, or perhaps trapped in an endless cycle of searching for home. Sightings along the Hilo coast are often reported in the early hours of the morning, when mist rises from the water and visibility is low. Witnesses describe seeing vague, human-shaped figures walking along the surf, their forms semi-transparent and wavering as if blending with the fog. Some figures appear to be wading in shallow water, while others seem to drift just above the waves, moving slowly and deliberately. Many who have seen these apparitions report a sudden feeling of cold, even on warm tropical nights, accompanied by a sense that the figures are aware of their presence, watching silently before fading away. Lights are another common phenomenon along Hilo's haunted shores. Small, flickering orbs often appear near the water's edge, moving rhythmically as if guiding someone or searching for something. Fishermen have long told stories of seeing these glowing forms rise from the surf, drift toward shore, and vanish as quickly as they appeared. Some claim the lights resemble lanterns carried by unseen sailors, a spectral reenactment of journeys cut short by storm or misfortune. These occurrences are particularly striking when observed from the shore, where the combination of mist, moonlight, and the rhythmic crash of waves creates an otherworldly atmosphere. The ocean mist itself seems to play a role in these hauntings. As it rolls in from the sea, it can distort shapes, bend light, and carry sound in ways that make the ordinary seem uncanny. Witnesses often describe hearing soft, indistinct murmurs coming from the water or along the coastline, echoes of conversations, commands, or cries that cannot be traced to any living person. One fisherman recalled hearing a series of distant shouts, followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps on wet sand, though he knew he was alone on the shore. Moments later, a vague silhouette appeared in the fog, moving along the beach before vanishing into the mist, leaving behind an impression of both sadness and unfinished business. Hilo's piers and old docks also serve as focal points for ghostly activity. Abandoned structures, weathered by sun and salt, often appear to be occupied when observed from a distance. Shadows cross the pilings, and occasional figures are reported standing silently at the water's edge, watching the waves. Local guides explain that these areas were once bustling with maritime activity, and the spirits may be drawn to familiar spaces, replaying memories of work, preparation for voyages, or the moments leading up to their tragic ends. Many who explore these areas describe an uncanny sensation of walking through a space that is both familiar and impossibly distant, as though the past has layered itself over the present. Stories of the haunted coast are not limited to visual sightings. Subtle touches, sudden gusts of wind, or the feeling of a presence close by are common among those who spend time near the water at night. Visitors often experience a combination of auditory and tactile phenomena. The soft brush of air, the distant cry of gulls, mingled with something more human, the faint sense of being followed by invisible footsteps. These sensations heighten the feeling that Hilo's shorelines are a threshold, a space where the living and the lost intersect. Despite the eerie experiences, the spirits along Hilo's coast are not considered malevolent. Locals interpret the apparitions and lights as echoes of lives disrupted and memories preserved, not as entities seeking harm. Respect and caution are advised when walking the shore after dark. Those who approach with humility may witness subtle manifestations, flickers of light, mist-bound figures, or distant whispers, while those who disregard the history and natural danger of the ocean may experience sharper chills or unsettling encounters. Photographs and amateur videos occasionally capture anomalies along Hilo's coast. Faint lights hovering above the waves, mist-enshrouded figures, or shadows moving independently of natural phenomena, combined with consistent oral accounts from fishermen and residents. These reports suggest that Hilo's haunted shoreline is a place where history and tragedy persist, etched into both land and sea. The haunted coast of Hilo is a testament to the ocean's dual nature, life-giving and perilous. Beautiful, yet capable of taking lives in an instant. The spectral sailors, drifting lights, and mist-shrouded figures serve as reminders that the sea carries memory as well as water. For those who walk the beaches at night or gaze into the foggy horizon, Hilo's haunted coast is not just a scenic location, but a place where the past persists, where the cries of the lost are carried on the wind, and where the spirits of drowned sailors continue their silent vigil over the waves and sands of Hawaii's Big Island. Waikiki, the famed stretch of golden sand along Honolulu's coast, is widely celebrated for its vibrant nightlife, luxury hotels, and bustling tourist activity. By day, it is a place of sun-soaked relaxation, surfers riding gentle waves, and families enjoying the warm Pacific waters. Yet, beneath the neon glow and modern energy, whispers persist of a different Waikiki, place where the past never fully faded, and spectral visitors walk the sands long after the crowds have gone. Locals and tourists alike have reported fleeting glimpses of figures dressed in early 20th century attire, walking along the beach as if the modern world does not exist. Their presence a haunting reminder of Waikiki's layered history. The early 1900s were a transformative era for Waikiki. The area was evolving from a quiet coastal settlement into a burgeoning tourist destination, attracting visitors from around the world. Hotels and beachfront resorts began to rise, bringing with them an influx of wealthy vacationers, entertainers, and servicemen. Yet, alongside this glamour were moments of hardship, sudden storms, accidents, and personal tragedies unfolded along the coastline, leaving a mark on the collective memory of the community. According to local lore, these experiences, coupled with the area's rapid development, created spiritual imprints that continue to linger in the sands and along the shorelines of Waikiki. Sightings of spectral figures are most frequently reported after sunset, when the bustle of the day has waned and the neon lights of hotels and shops cast long, eerie reflections across the sand. Witnesses describe seeing men and women in period attire, their clothing unmistakably styled from the early 1900s, walking along the water's edge or pausing to gaze at the ocean. Some figures appear engaged in ordinary activities, strolling hand in hand, reading, or conversing quietly, but vanish when approached, leaving no trace behind. Tourists often report the unsettling experience of seeing these apparitions from the corner of their eye, only for the figures to fade into mist or blend seamlessly with shadows cast by modern buildings. Sounds also play a crucial role in the haunting of Waikiki. On quiet nights, visitors have reported hearing soft laughter, the clatter of old heels on boardwalks, or faint conversations drifting over the surf. Occasionally, the sounds are accompanied by the rustle of fabric, as though clothing from a bygone era is brushing past, despite no one being present. One local shop owner recounted stepping outside after closing and hearing the unmistakable echo of a couple laughing near the shoreline, a sound that faded as he turned to look, leaving him with a deep chill. These auditory phenomena, subtle yet persistent, reinforce the impression that the beach holds memories that refuse to fade. Hotel verandas, piers, and historic beachfront properties are also common locations for sightings. Guests have reported seeing shadowy figures gliding along balconies or pausing at railings to watch the waves, only to vanish when the observer approaches. Some claim that the figures appear to be from an era long before the hotel renovations, a living link to the people who first frequented Waikiki as shores during the early development of the area. Others describe seeing groups of figures walking in procession along the beach, dressed in old-fashioned bathing suits or summer attire, moving with deliberate purpose before dissolving into the night air. Even the neon lights themselves seem to interact strangely with the apparitions. Witnesses often describe the ghosts appearing more vivid when illuminated by the glow of street lamps or hotel signage, then fading into near invisibility when the lights shift or flicker. Some believe that the contrast between Waikiki's modern vibrancy and its historical layers makes the hauntings more pronounced, a juxtaposition of past and present playing out on the same sands. Respect and awareness are recurring themes in local stories of Waikiki's hauntings. Those who walk the beach quietly, paying attention to their surroundings, are more likely to report subtle manifestations, while those who ignore the history or move carelessly often experience stronger sensations of unused sudden chills, the sense of being watched, or fleeting shadows darting past. Guides and residents emphasize that these spectral visitors are not malevolent. They are echoes of people who lived, laughed, and moved along these shores long before the city became the tourist hub it is today. Photographs occasionally capture anomalies, blurred shapes, faint silhouettes, or glowing figures partially obscured by the neon reflections on wet sand. While skeptics may attribute such images to trickery or environmental conditions, the consistency of reports across generations of visitors and locals suggests that Waikiki's spectral visitors are more than mere imagination. They are enduring remnants of a time when the beach was quieter, the world simpler, and lives were intertwined closely with the rhythm of the ocean. Waikiki's haunting is a reminder that even in the busiest, most modern places, the past lingers. The early 20th century figures, the faint sounds of laughter and conversation, and the fleeting shadows along the sand are all testament to lives once lived and memories that refuse to be forgotten. For those who venture to the beach at night, away from the neon lights and the bustling crowd, Waikiki becomes a threshold of place where the modern and the spectral coexist, where the echoes of history walk hand in hand with the present, and where the spirits of a bygone era continue their nightly promenade along Hawaii's most famous shores. Honolulu Bay, on the northern coast of Kauai, is renowned for its sweeping crescent of white sand, calm turquoise waters, and surrounding mountains that rise dramatically from the shore. By day, it is a place of sunbathers, surfers, and families enjoying the tranquil beauty of the Pacific. Yet as night falls, the bay takes on a different character. Locals and visitors alike have long whispered of an otherworldly presence along the shore, fishermen who perished in sudden storms, their spirits said to wander the sands in quiet mourning. Those who stroll Honolulu Bay after sunset often speak of feeling unseen eyes upon them, of fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures, and of the pervasive, melancholic energy that lingers long after the sun has dipped below the horizon. The history of Honolulu Bay is closely tied to the ocean, which has always been both a source of sustenance and a harbinger of danger. Generations of Hawaiian fishermen relied on the bay's abundant waters, casting nets, paddling canoes, and navigating the unpredictable currents that could turn calm waters into deadly waves. Before the advent of modern technology, storms could strike without warning, and countless men were lost to the ocean, their lives claimed by the very waters that sustained the community. It is said that these spirits never truly left, their souls tied to the bay where they worked, laughed, and ultimately met their fate. Visitors report seeing figures along the shoreline at night, often described as semi-transparent silhouettes moving with a slow, deliberate rhythm. These apparitions are typically dressed in traditional fishing attire, carrying nets or small tools, as if continuing their labors from life. Many witnesses note that the figures never interact with the living. They are silent observers, appearing to follow a path along the shore or pause to gaze at the waves. Some describe the feeling of being watched, an almost tangible awareness of presence, while others recount moments when figures vanish into thin air, leaving only an unsettling chill behind. The soundscape of Honolulu Bay contributes to its haunted reputation. On quiet nights, visitors have reported hearing faint splashes, the subtle dragging of nets, or distant voices murmuring in tones that cannot be attributed to modern human activity. One resident described sitting near the water's edge after sunset when she heard the unmistakable sound of a canoe being dragged across sand, followed by a rhythmic, almost mournful hum. When she looked, the beach appeared empty. Yet the echoes lingered, as if the bay itself was replaying fragments of the past. Such auditory phenomena amplify the sense that the spirits are active and aware, silently observing the living while remaining tethered to their own unfinished stories. The natural features of Honolulu Bay, the mountains, dunes, and cliffs also play a role in the eerie atmosphere. Mist and low-hanging clouds often roll off the mountains in the evenings, blending with the shoreline and distorting shapes. Shadows cast by moonlight and the surf can create illusions of movement, Yet many encounters are described with such clarity that they defy explanation. Witnesses consistently describe the figures as distinct from natural shadows, their movement purposeful, and their presence unmistakable, suggesting a lingering consciousness tied to the bay. Abandoned fishing huts and small structures along the shore often serve as focal points for spectral activity. Visitors have reported seeing faint lights within these buildings or glimpses of figures passing through doorways and windows. One traveler recounted exploring an old shack at dusk, only to hear a low, rhythmic tapping, like someone checking or repairing equipment. When he entered, no one was there, but the atmosphere of loss and waiting remained, pressing in around him. These moments are fleeting yet vivid, leaving an impression that the bay and its structures are repositories for memories and souls of the past. Local lore emphasizes respect for the spirits of Hanalei Bay. Those who approach the shore quietly and with awareness often experience subtle signs, glimpses of figures, soft sounds, or a sudden, inexplicable chill. While those who tread carelessly or treat the area frivolously may feel an intensified presence or disquiet, the spirits are not considered malevolent. They are echoes of lives interrupted by tragedy, tied to the bay and the ocean that defined them. Observers often leave the shore with a profound sense of humility and reverence, reminded that the beauty of Hanalei Bay is inseparable from its history and the souls it harbors. Photographs occasionally capture anomalies along the shoreline, faint figures walking along the sand, blurred movements near the water, or lights that cannot be attributed to man-made sources. While some dismiss these images as tricks of light and mist, the consistency of eyewitness reports across decades suggests a persistent spectral presence. From shadowy fishermen to subtle auditory cues, the haunted energy of Hanalei Bay is woven into the experience of the coast, a reminder that the past is never entirely gone. Hanalei Bay's haunted nights reveal a side of the island hidden from the sunlit tourist gaze. The spirits of drowned fishermen, silently wandering the sands, serve as a poignant reminder of the ocean's power and unpredictability. Their presence is not meant to frighten, but to memorialize a lingering echo of lives intertwined with the water, the shore, and the island itself. For those who walk Hanalei Bay at night, the whispers of the past remain palpable, a spectral testament to resilience, loss, and the enduring connection between the living and the spirits who continue to roam the sands of Kauai. Lanai, the smallest of Hawaii's inhabited islands, is often celebrated for its rugged beauty, quiet beaches, and dramatic cliffs that rise sharply from the Pacific. Yet beneath the serene vistas lies a darker history, one marked by treacherous waters, shipwrecks, and lives lost along the rocky coastlines. Locals and occasional visitors whisper of shipwrecked souls, spirits of sailors who perished navigating Lanai's perilous shores, still lingering near the cliffs, their presence occasionally announced by the faint ringing of old ship bells or fleeting glimpses of ghostly figures staring out to the sea. The waters surrounding Lanai have always been notoriously dangerous. Sudden storms, shifting currents, and jagged rocks have claimed countless vessels over the centuries, leaving their crews lost to the deep. Many sailors came from far-off lands, drawn by trade routes or exploration, unprepared for the island's sudden squalls and unpredictable tides. Over time, the memories of these tragedies became woven into local lore, with stories of lost ships, haunted cliffs, and restless spirits passed down through generations. According to legend, the souls of those who perished were unable to find peace, tethered to the coastlines where their lives ended so abruptly. Sightings along Lanai's rocky cliffs are often reported during dawn or dusk, when the shifting light casts long shadows over jagged rocks and the ocean mist rolls in from the waves below. Witnesses describe seeing faint, human-shaped figures moving near the cliff edges, often staring out toward the horizon. Some figures appear to be sailors in period clothing, carrying lanterns or tools, as if preparing for a voyage that was never completed. Others are less defined, more like shadows, but their movements suggest intent and awareness. Visitors frequently report an uncanny sensation of being observed, even in areas where no one else is present. The sounds along Lanai's coasts often accompany these spectral sightings. Many have claimed to hear the clanging of ship bells, faint at first, then growing clearer, as though a vessel was approaching the shore. Some describe the low creaking of timbers, or the distant crash of waves against hulls long since wrecked. One fisherman recalled walking along a cliffside trail at night when he heard the unmistakable chime of a bell, followed by the sound of hurried footsteps on gravel. Turning, he saw a ghostly figure pause at the cliff's edge, peering into the darkness over the sea, before vanishing. Such experiences leave a lasting impression, blending the eerie and the tragic. Lanai's natural geography amplifies the sense of haunting. The cliffs, with their sheer drops into the ocean, create a space where sound carries unpredictably, and shadows can deceive the eye. Mist often rolls off the waves and drifts inland, blurring shapes and softening the edges of rocks and vegetation. Witnesses consistently describe seeing figures partially obscured by mist, appearing to float rather than walk, or catching glimpses of movement that vanishes when approached directly. This combination of natural phenomena and spectral accounts reinforces the island's reputation as a place where the past is never fully gone. Abandoned structures along the coastline, remnants of early trading posts, lighthouses, or lookout points often serve as focal points for paranormal activity. Visitors report seeing faint lights within these ruins or figures moving through doorways and windows. One explorer recounted climbing to an old lookout tower at twilight, only to hear soft, rhythmic knocking and the faint ringing of a bell. When he peered through the open doorway, the space appeared empty, yet the echo of sound lingered, leaving a strong sense of presence. These encounters suggest that both the natural and built environment of Lanai is imbued with the memories of those lost to the ocean. Local lore emphasizes respect for the spirits of the shipwrecked. Those who traverse the cliffs with mindfulness often experience subtle manifestations, a ghostly figure in the mist, a faint bell, or the soft brush of wind carrying whispers. However, those who enter recklessly or without regard for history may feel the presence more intensely, experiencing sudden chills, disorientation, or unsettling sensations that compel retreat. The spirits are not thought to be malicious. They are remnants of lives interrupted, echoes of tragedy seeking acknowledgement and remembrance. Photographs and amateur recordings sometimes capture anomalies, faint silhouettes on cliff edges, soft glows where lanterns should not exist, or blurred shapes against a misty coastline. While skeptics attribute these to lighting or environmental conditions, the consistency of eyewitness accounts over decades suggests a persistent spectral presence. Shadowy sailors, distant bells, and fleeting figures blend with the landscape to create a haunting that is both subtle and unforgettable. Lanai's shipwrecked souls serve as a poignant reminder of the ocean's power and the dangers that sailors once faced along its shores. The cliffs, waves, and mist carry memory as much as they carry wind and water. For those who walk the rocky coastlines at dawn, dusk, or under the cover of night, the echoes of lost sailors are ever present. They linger at the cliff edges, gaze toward the horizon, and sometimes offer the faintest glimpse of their former lives, a reminder that Lanai, though serene and beautiful, holds a history etched in both tragedy and the enduring presence of the spirits who never returned from the sea. Haleokleb, the massive dormant volcano that dominates the eastern landscape of Maui, is celebrated for its breathtaking sunrises, sweeping vistas, and the stark beauty of its crater. By day, the summit is a popular destination for hikers, photographers, and tourists eager to witness the vast expanse of the island beneath them. Yet as night falls and the sun disappears beyond the horizon, Haleokleb takes on a different, more mysterious character. Visitors have long reported phenomena that defy explanation: strange lights flickering across the crater, shadowy figures moving silently in the distance, and whispers carried on windless nights, as if the mountain itself is speaking. Among the most unsettling accounts are sightings of spirits believed to be ancient Hawaiians, performing rituals along the ridges and crater floor, their forms shimmering briefly before fading into the darkness. The history of Haleokleb is deeply intertwined with Hawaiian mythology and spiritual practice. The volcano's name, which means House of the Sun, is connected to numerous legends, including tales of deities, demigods, and ancestral figures whose presence was once deeply felt on the summit. Traditionally, the area was sacred, used for ceremonies and rituals to honor the gods and the natural world. Local lore suggests that those spiritual energies have never fully dissipated, and that the summit continues to resonate with the echoes of ancient practices. Many hikers report a sense of being watched or guided as they traverse the crater's paths, a subtle awareness that the land is alive with unseen presence. Sightings are most frequently reported at twilight or during the dark hours before sunrise. Witnesses describe seeing faint, human-shaped figures along the ridges or scattered across the crater floor, moving with deliberate, almost ceremonial gestures. Some appear to be wearing traditional Hawaiian clothing, while others are less distinct, blurred by distance or mist. The figures are often fleeting, visible only for moments. Yet their presence is powerful enough to leave observers feeling a deep connection to the mountain's ancient past. One hiker recounted pausing on a ridge and seeing a small group of figures encircling a fire, performing gestures that seemed ceremonial. Moments later, the flames vanished, and the crater was empty, leaving only the cold wind and a lingering sense of awe. The sounds of Haleoclub add another dimension to its haunting. Even on nights when the air is still, hikers report hearing whispers carried across the crater, soft murmurs that seem to follow the contours of the land. Some claim these are voices chanting in a language long forgotten, while others describe faint drumming or the soft crunch of footsteps on the volcanic rock. These sounds often occur without any discernible source, creating an atmosphere where the ordinary and the supernatural intertwine. Visitors frequently describe feeling a presence nearby, sometimes as if unseen figures are moving alongside them, observing silently before fading into the darkness. Light phenomena are another hallmark of Haleoclub's hauntings. Witnesses often report strange flickering or glowing orbs hovering above the crater floor or drifting along the ridges. These lights move with purpose, sometimes rising and disappearing suddenly, or dancing along the horizon in ways that defy natural explanation. Some hikers have described seeing formations of lights that resemble ceremonial fires or lanterns, moving in sync with the figures glimpsed in the distance. In these moments, the boundary between the physical world and the spiritual one feels almost imperceptible, as if the ancient energies of the volcano are actively manifesting before human eyes. The rugged terrain of Haleoclub amplifies the eerie atmosphere. The crater's steep ridges, jagged rocks, and mist-laden valleys create natural shadows and optical illusions, but many accounts are precise enough to suggest more than natural trickery. Witnesses consistently describe seeing figures performing actions, gestures, postures, or movements that seem purposeful, that vanish when approached. Even experienced hikers familiar with the mountain's geography report feelings of unease, chills, or the sensation of being followed by something unseen. The summit's isolation, combined with the thin air and cold temperatures at night, enhances these experiences, making the supernatural encounters feel vivid and immediate. Local stories emphasize reverence for Haleoclub's spirits. Those who approach the summit quietly and with respect often experience subtle manifestations, glimpses of figures, whispers on the wind, or faint lights that flicker and vanish. Disregard for the mountain's sacred history, on the other hand, is said to intensify encounters, producing stronger feelings of unease or disorientation. The spirits are not considered hostile. They are echoes of a time when the land was alive with ritual, a lingering presence of those who walked and revered the crater centuries ago. Photographs and amateur videos occasionally capture anomalies, faint figures, shifting shadows, or lights that cannot be attributed to natural sources. While skeptics may dismiss such evidence as reflections, mist, or lens effects, the consistency of first-hand accounts suggests a persistent, unseen presence that continues to inhabit Haleoclub's summit. Haleoclub's haunted crater offers more than panoramic views or a spectacular sunrise. For those who linger after dark, the mountain reveals a spiritual layer, ghostly figures performing ancient rituals, whispers carried across windless nights, and lights that flicker like memories of a long-forgotten era. The haunting of Haleoclab is a testament to the island's history, culture, and enduring spiritual energy, a reminder that even in the stark beauty of volcanic rock, the past remains vividly alive, watching and whooping, echoing across the summit for those willing to witness it. The Kalaupapa Peninsula on Molokai is a place of stark beauty and somber history. Isolated from the rest of the island by towering cliffs and the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, it is known for its rugged coastline, sweeping views, and the haunting legacy of the leper colony established there in the 19th century. Among the peninsula's most enduring landmarks is the old Kalaupapa Lighthouse, perched on the edge of cliffs overlooking the sea. Though its light no longer serves as a primary navigational aid, the lighthouse and its surrounding grounds are steeped in stories of lingering spirits. Visitors have reported cold spots, disembodied footsteps, and the unmistakable sensation of being watched. Locals whisper that these are the remnants of those who once dedicated their lives to tending the sick at the colony, their presence still inhabiting the shadowy halls of the lighthouse. The history of Kalaupapa is inseparable from the haunting of the lighthouse. In the late 1800s, individuals diagnosed with leprosy were forcibly relocated to the peninsula, isolated from family and society for the rest of their lives. The colony became a place of suffering, resilience, and human compassion. Missionaries, nurses, and volunteers risked exposure to care for the sick, creating a fragile community amidst hardship. Over the decades, many passed away on the peninsula, their bodies buried near the cliffs or within the colony grounds. It is said that their spirits, particularly those who devoted themselves to aiding others, continue to linger around the lighthouse, where the light once symbolized hope and guidance for those navigating treacherous waters. Visitors approaching the lighthouse often sense a sudden chill, a cold spot that seems to defy the warm tropical air. Some report feeling a presence brushing past them, even when alone on the grounds. Others recount hearing footsteps echoing across the empty halls of the lighthouse. The rhythm, unmistakable yet impossible to trace to any living person. One hiker, exploring the area during late afternoon, described climbing the spiral stairs inside the tower only to hear soft, deliberate steps following him. When he turned, the staircase was empty, and the sound stopped abruptly. Such experiences are common, repeated in varying accounts by tourists, historians, and locals alike. Beyond the physical sensations, witnesses describe more ethereal phenomena. Shadows moving at the edge of vision, doors creaking open without wind, or fleeting glimpses of figures dressed in period clothing all are part of the lighthouse's haunting. Some have seen faint outlines of nurses or caretakers walking the halls, moving with quiet purpose as if tending to invisible patients. Others report hearing whispers, gentle and indistinct, echoing through the tower and surrounding grounds. The effect is subtle, yet unnerving, a reminder that the lighthouse has not been untouched by the souls who once lived and worked nearby. The lighthouse's location amplifies the feeling of isolation and mystery. Positioned atop cliffs that rise sharply from the ocean, it overlooks waters that have claimed countless lives over the years. Waves crash violently against jagged rocks below, and fog often rolls in from the sea, shrouding the structure in a veil of mist. This environment, combined with the lighthouse's history, creates a space where the natural and supernatural blend seamlessly. Observers often report that the figures they see appear partially obscured by mist, their movements deliberate yet fleeting, as if caught between worlds. Local lore emphasizes the compassionate spirits that inhabit the lighthouse. It is said that those who walk the halls respectfully may feel subtle signs of their presence, a reassuring touch of cold air, the faint echo of footsteps in accompaniment, or the gentle impression that someone is guiding them. Conversely, those who approach carelessly or mock the history may encounter a more unsettling experience. Sudden chills, intensified sounds, or shadows that seem closer than expected. The spirits are not malevolent. Rather, they are echoes of devotion and care, remnants of a community bound by suffering and service. The lighthouse has also been the site of photographic anomalies. Visitors sometimes capture faint figures in the corners of frames, shapes partially hidden in stairways, or lights that appear without any source. While skeptics attribute these images to optical effects or camera distortion, the repeated accounts of footsteps, whispers, and cold spots suggest something more tangible, lingering presence of those who once devoted their lives to the welfare of others on the peninsula. The Kalaupapa Lighthouse stands as more than a navigational relic. It is a testament to human endurance, sacrifice, and the lingering echoes of history. The spirits said to inhabit its halls are not there to frighten, but to serve as a reminder of the past, the lives of those who suffered, and those who offered care in the face of unimaginable hardship. For visitors who wander the lighthouse grounds at dusk or in the early evening, the experience is both awe-inspiring and humbling. Walking the halls, feeling sudden chills, or hearing disembodied footsteps, one cannot help but sense the profound connection between the living and the spirits of Kalaupapa. These presences remind us that history is not only recorded in books and photographs, but also etched into the land, the structures, and even the very air. The lighthouse, perched above the cliffs and overlooking the vast Pacific, continues to shine in another way, as a beacon for memory, for compassion, and for the lingering souls who once walked these shadowed halls, watching, guiding, and quietly enduring alongside those who follow. Kona, on the western coast of Hawaii Island, is famous for its dramatic black sand beaches, volcanic cliffs, and vibrant marine life. By day, the coastline teems with snorkelers, sunbathers, and visitors drawn to the striking contrast between the dark sand and turquoise waters. Yet beneath this natural beauty lies a history shadowed by tragedy. The black sand beaches, formed from volcanic lava, have witnessed countless shipwrecks and sudden storms over the centuries. And locals whisper that the souls of those lost at sea continue to linger along the shore. Travelers exploring Kona's beaches at dusk or under the cover of night often report ghostly figures appearing near tide pools, their reflections visible in the dark, still water before vanishing when approached. The treacherous waters off Kona's coast have long been a source of both sustenance and danger. Early sailors, traders, and fishermen relied on the Pacific currents to reach the island and navigate its shores. Yet sudden storms could easily transform a routine voyage into disaster. Many vessels were wrecked along the jagged coast, their crews claimed by the waves. Over time, the stories of those lost became intertwined with the land itself, creating a legacy of grief and remembrance. According to legend, the spirits of these sailors and travelers remain near the black sands, tied to the place of their final moments, moving silently along the shoreline, or watching the waves as if searching for home. Sightings are most commonly reported near tide pools and shallow coves, where the black volcanic sand meets the calm, reflective water. Witnesses describe seeing figures standing motionless at the water's edge, often fully visible in the mirrored surface of the tide pools. Some appear to be sailors in period clothing, carrying tools or lanterns, while others are shadowy, indistinct forms. In many accounts, the figures vanish as soon as someone approaches, leaving behind only the faint impression of their presence and the gentle lapping of water against the rocks. One visitor recounted spotting a tall figure reflected in a tide pool at dusk, only for it to disappear when he stepped closer, though the image had been so vivid that it seemed almost tangible. The soundscape of Kona's dark shores contributes to the haunting atmosphere. Even on nights when the air is calm and the waves roll gently, witnesses report hearing the faint clanging of metal, the distant cries of unseen sailors, or the soft dragging of rope across sand. These sounds often seem to emanate from nowhere, carried by the ocean breeze, creating an eerie interplay of auditory and visual phenomena. Some locals suggest that these are echoes of the final moments of shipwrecked sailors, lingering as residual energy along the coast. Others believe that the tide pools act as mirrors not only for light, but for memories, reflecting past tragedies back to the living. The natural features of Kona's beaches amplify the spectral experiences. The black sand, formed from cooled lava, absorbs light differently than traditional beaches, casting long shadows at sunset and creating a surreal landscape where shapes can appear distorted. Tidepools.com and reflective often give the illusion of movement beneath the surface, making fleeting glimpses of figures even more unsettling. Fog and mist occasionally roll in from the ocean, further blurring the line between reality and apparition. Witnesses consistently describe the figures as distinct from these natural effects, appearing with deliberate motion and a sense of awareness, as if observing the living without interacting directly. Abandoned structures along the coastline, such as old fishing shacks or remnants of piers, are also said to be hotspots for paranormal activity. Visitors have reported seeing faint lights flicker within these ruins, or figures passing through doorways that have long been boarded up. One traveler recalled climbing a cliffside path near a deserted pier when he heard a series of rhythmic footsteps behind him, accompanied by a sudden chill. Turning, he saw the silhouette of a figure standing motionless, gazing out at the water, before vanishing into the darkness. These encounters suggest that both natural and man-made elements along Kona's coast serve as anchors for lingering spirits. Local folklore emphasizes respect for those who have passed. The spirits along Kona's shores are not considered malevolent. Rather, they are echoes of lives lost, tied to the land and sea where tragedy struck. Those who walk the beaches quietly and attentively may witness subtle signs of reflection in a tide pool, a faint shadow, or a gentle brush of wind, while those who tread carelessly may experience a heightened sense of unease. The stories serve as reminders of the power of the ocean and the fragility of human life in the face of nature as force. Photographs occasionally capture anomalies along Kona's black sand beaches, blurred figures in reflections, faint shapes among the tide pools, or lights that seem to hover above the water. While skeptics might attribute these images to optical illusions or environmental factors, the consistency of eyewitness accounts over generations points to a persistent presence that continues to haunt the coast. Shadowy sailors, reflected in dark waters and vanishing into the night, are a poignant reminder that the sea carries not only life but memory, loss, and lingering spirits. Kona's dark shores reveal a side of Hawaii that is less celebrated, yet profoundly moving. The black sand, jagged rocks, and quiet tide pools are more than scenic vistas. They are the final resting places of those claimed by the ocean and the stage for a haunting that endures through time. The shipwrecked souls, visible in reflections and felt in cold winds and subtle sounds, remind visitors that the natural beauty of Kona's coastline is inseparable from the tragedies it has witnessed, and that the spirits of those lost at sea continue their silent vigil along the dark sands of Hawaii Island. Nu'uanupali, the dramatic cliffside overlook on Oahu, is famous for its sweeping views of the windward coast, verdant valleys, and the turquoise expanse of the Pacific Ocean. By day, tourists and locals alike flock to its lookout points, snapping photos of the panoramic scenery and feeling the fierce, ever-present wind that rushes through the Pali Gaps. Yet beneath the natural beauty lies a violent and turbulent history, one that has left an enduring mark on the land. Nu'uanupali was the site of crucial battles and acts of betrayal during the unification of Hawaii under King Kamehameha I, and many believe that the spirits of warriors who perished along these cliffs still linger. Visitors often report ghostly footsteps behind them, fleeting shadows darting across their path, and sudden gusts of cold air that seem to sweep in from nowhere, all hinting at the restless souls that haunt this historic site. The history of Nu'uanupali is both celebrated and feared. In the late 18th century, Kamehameha I waged a campaign to unify the Hawaiian Islands under a single ruler. One of the most decisive and tragic confrontations occurred at Nu'uanupali, where Kamehameha's forces drove the opposing Oahu warriors up the steep cliffs. Those who could not escape the precipice were forced over the edge, tumbling to their deaths below. The battle left a scar on the landscape and, according to legend, tethered the spirits of the fallen warriors to the cliffs. It is said that their energy lingers, replaying the fear, desperation, and violence of that fateful day. Visitors walking the trails today are often unaware that beneath the windswept beauty lies a place where history's echoes continue to resonate. Those who have visited Nuuanu Pali after dark or in quiet moments report an eerie sense of presence. Many describe the feeling of footsteps pacing behind them, perfectly synchronized with their own steps, only to disappear when they stop or turn. Others recount catching fleeting shadows at the corner of their vision, figures moving with speed and purpose along paths that are otherwise empty. Hikers and tourists alike describe sudden cold gusts of wind that seem to materialize from nowhere, chilling them to the bone despite the tropical climate. These experiences are often accompanied by a profound sense of unease, as though the cliffs themselves are alive with memories of the past. Sightings often include apparitions of warriors dressed in traditional Hawaiian attire, their forms partially obscured by the mist that rolls in from the valleys below. Witnesses have reported figures wielding spears or standing silently at the cliff's edge, gazing over the lands they once fought to defend. Sometimes these figures appear to be moving in formation, as if reenacting the moments leading up to the historic battle. Others have described ghostly figures vanishing when approached, leaving only the sound of their footsteps echoing in the windswept landscape. These encounters, though brief, leave a lasting impression, making visitors acutely aware of the violent history that underpins the site's natural beauty. The wind itself seems to play a role in the haunting of Nuuanu Pali. Known for its strong, unpredictable gusts, the Pali Gap creates currents of air that rush violently across the cliffs. Locals and visitors alike report that these gusts often coincide with the appearance of spectral phenomena, amplifying the sense of otherworldly presence. Some hikers claim that the wind carries whispers in an ancient tongue, unintelligible yet charged with emotion, echoing across the precipices and valleys. On particularly quiet nights, the combination of wind, shadows, and sound creates an atmosphere where the line between reality and memory seems to blur, as though the past itself has been stitched into the cliffs. The cliff's jagged terrain contributes to the eerie nature of the site. Steep drops, hidden crevices, and narrow trails amplify the sensation of isolation and heighten the intensity of encounters. Visitors frequently describe feeling watched from multiple angles, sensing figures moving along paths that are invisible to the naked eye. Even in broad daylight, there are reports of shadows flitting across the lookout points or across the cliff faces, moving too quickly and deliberately to be explained by natural causes alone. The combination of history, geography, and atmospheric conditions makes Nuuanu Pali a hotspot for supernatural experiences. Local lore emphasizes respect for the spirits of the fallen. Those who approach the cliffs with reverence may witness subtle manifestations, like a shadow flitting past, a faint echo of footsteps, or a sudden, cold breeze. Disrespect or frivolity is said to intensify the experience, producing stronger sensations of unease or the feeling of being followed. The spirits are not considered malevolent. Rather, they are reminders of the lives lost in conflict, of bravery and tragedy intertwined with the land. Photographs and occasional recordings capture anomalies along the cliff's blurred shapes, flickering shadows, and lights that cannot be attributed to the sun or artificial sources. While skeptics may attribute these to optical illusions, the consistency of first-hand reports across generations reinforces the idea that Nuuanu Pali remains a place haunted by the echoes of history. The ghostly footsteps, fleeting shadows, and sudden chills remind visitors that the cliffs are more than a scenic overlook. They are a memorial, a threshold where the past and present collide. Nuuanu Pali stands as a site where natural beauty and human history merge with the supernatural. The ghostly figures of fallen warriors, the whispers carried on windless nights, and the footsteps echoing across the cliffs all serve as reminders that the past lingers in the landscape. Visitors who tread carefully along these precipices may feel the presence of those who once fought and fell, their spirits watching, pacing, and enduring along Oahu's haunted cliffs. Kuka State Park, perched high on the lush ridges of Kauai, Hawaii, is known for its breathtaking vistas, verdant forests, and mist-laden trails that wind through dense foliage. Visitors come seeking the park's natural beauty, drawn to the panoramic views of cliffs plunging into the ocean and the serenity of its remote paths. Yet, amid this splendor, there exists a side of Kuka that is far less inviting, one whispered about by hikers, locals, and park rangers alike. The apparitions that appear amidst the fog and the cries for help that echo through the silent forest. The park's trails, particularly those less traveled, are shrouded in a constant mist that rolls down the slopes, weaving between towering Oahu trees and ferns. It is along these foggy paths that hikers often feel a sudden chill or an inexplicable sense of being watched. Many report hearing faint calls, pleading voices, cries for help, or whispers in a language long forgotten. The sounds seem to come from just beyond sight, from the shadows of the forest, or from behind thick veils of fog. Some hikers have described pausing mid-step, heart racing, only to hear the calls fade, leaving the forest silent once again, as if whatever made the noise had retreated back into the mist. Shadowy figures are another common phenomenon. Witnesses describe seeing human-like silhouettes emerging from the fog, standing motionless on the trails, or slipping silently between the trees. These shapes are usually vague and dark, lacking any clear features, yet their presence is undeniable. Some hikers have claimed that the figures appear to watch them, tilting their heads or pausing in a way that suggests awareness. Others have described glimpses of figures that vanish the instant they attempt to approach, leaving behind only the lingering echo of footsteps or the rustle of leaves. Many believe these apparitions are spirits of early settlers or lost hikers who never returned. Kuka State Park has long been a remote and rugged wilderness, where sudden storms, steep cliffs, and dense fog could claim the unwary. Some legends speak of families and travelers from the 19th century who vanished along the trails, their fates remaining a mystery. Over time, hikers have suggested that these spirits linger, bound to the land where they met their end, compelled to walk the paths they could never escape. The cries for help, then, are thought to be remnants of their final moments, echoes carried through time and mist. One hiker recounted a harrowing experience along a particularly secluded trail. As the morning fog thickened, she began to hear faint sobbing, soft but persistent, coming from a cluster of trees beside the path. She called out, hoping someone might need assistance, yet the cries intensified, layered with a sense of urgency that made her freeze. As she strained to see through the mist, a shadowy figure appeared, tall and indistinct, standing just a few meters away. The figure did not move toward her, nor did it retreat. Instead, it remained motionless, as if waiting. Terrified, she backed away slowly, never taking her eyes off the apparition, until it finally disappeared into the swirling fog. Even after reaching the safety of the park's visitor center, the memory of that figure and the sound of its cries stayed with her, an experience that felt more real than anything she had encountered on the trails before. Other hikers have reported similar encounters, often in the early morning or late evening, when the fog is thickest and visibility is limited. Some describe multiple figures appearing along the same stretch of trail, as if the lost spirits are wandering together, moving silently and deliberately. Others have experienced sudden temperature drops, unexplained movements of branches, or glimpses of shadowy forms that vanish when the mist shifts. These phenomena, while terrifying, are almost always subtle, leaving hikers unsure whether they have truly seen something supernatural, or whether the forest has simply played tricks on their senses. Paranormal enthusiasts and folklore researchers have long been drawn to Kuka State Park, hoping to document the mysterious sounds and apparitions. Audio recordings occasionally capture strange, faint voices that do not correspond to any known hikers or animals. Photographs sometimes show indistinct figures in the fog, blurred by mist but undeniably human-like in shape. Even with evidence, however, the most unsettling aspect of Kuka is the personal experience, the sudden brush with something unexplainable, the sense of being observed, and the lingering impression that the forest remembers every person who has walked its trails. Those who hike Kuka State Park often leave with more than just memories of stunning vistas. They carry the experience of walking among shadows, hearing cries from the fog, and sensing the presence of spirits tied to the land. The park is a place of beauty and mystery, where nature and the supernatural intertwine, reminding visitors that even in paradise, the past never truly fades, and some paths are haunted by those who never made it home. Maui, with its lush valleys and rolling hills, is a landscape shaped not only by volcanic forces, but by centuries of human labor. Among the island's scenic beauty lie the remnants of a bygone era, abandoned sugar mills, their crumbling walls and rusting machinery standing as silent witnesses to decades of toil. These mills, once the heartbeat of Maui's sugar industry, now harbor whispers of the past. Locals and adventurous visitors alike have reported strange phenomena: flickering lights in broken windows, cold gusts of wind that sweep unnaturally through empty corridors, and the faint echo of machinery long silent. Many believe these occurrences are the lingering presence of workers who perished in accidents or endured harsh conditions, their spirits refusing to leave the ruins of the industry that defined their lives. The sugar industry on Maui was grueling and dangerous. Thousands of laborers, both local Hawaiians and immigrant workers, toiled in the fields and mills, often facing long hours, scorching sun, and hazardous machinery. Accidents were tragically common. Workers caught in crushing rollers, falling from scaffolds, or struck by malfunctioning equipment. Over time, the mills became sites of both prosperity and sorrow. According to local lore, those who died in these workplaces never fully left the island, their presence lingering among the rusted beams and shattered windows of the abandoned structures. Visitors exploring these old mills often speak of a tangible sense of unease. The wind seems to move through the buildings with purpose, carrying the faint scent of sugar, oil, and smoke, long extinguished. Hikers and urban explorers report sudden chills, often concentrated near derelict machinery or the remains of old processing rooms. Some recount seeing shadowy figures moving across the corridors, their forms sometimes humanoid, sometimes more like flickering shadows cast by the setting sun. These figures appear and vanish without warning, leaving a lingering impression of presence and history intertwined. The lights reported in the abandoned mills are among the most unsettling phenomena. On moonless nights, visitors have described faint glows flickering through broken windows, moving along hallways or climbing the stairways. Some witnesses claim to see full silhouettes illuminated by the glow, performing tasks as if operating machinery or carrying supplies, only to vanish when approached. The interplay of light and shadow creates an eerie scene, where the ruins of the past seem alive for fleeting moments. One explorer recalled pausing near a shattered window and seeing a figure at a loom-like machine, hands moving in rhythm with the ghostly hum of gears, before it dissolved into darkness as he drew closer. The sounds in and around the mills add to the haunting. Echoes of machinery clanking gears, the hiss of steam, or the distant hum of rollers are often reported even when no mechanical system remains. Visitors have recounted hearing the creak of doors opening, footsteps along empty hallways, or the faint murmur of voices carrying over the fields. These auditory phenomena often coincide with the appearance of lights or shadows, creating an immersive experience where the physical and the spectral overlap. Some locals say that these sounds are residual energy, echoes of the intense labor and tragic accidents that occurred over decades. The landscape surrounding the mills also contributes to their haunting atmosphere. Overgrown sugarcane fields encroach on the ruins, and dense foliage often obscures paths or creates sudden shadows. Fog can roll in from the nearby valleys, adding a ghostly veil that blurs the boundary between the living and the spectral. Witnesses consistently report that the figures they see are not illusions created by vegetation or mist. They move with intention, sometimes climbing stairways, crossing courtyards, or pausing near machinery, always vanishing when observed directly. The combination of landscape, architecture, and lingering memory amplifies the sense of the mills as spaces suspended between the past and present. Abandoned worker housing and storage areas near the mills are also reported to be hotspots of paranormal activity. Visitors claim to hear conversations, laughter, or cries echoing through these empty buildings. Occasionally, Small objects are found displaced, tools shifted, doors left ajar, or personal items moved without explanation. These subtle signs suggest that the spirits are not merely passive observers, but continue to interact with the spaces they once inhabited. The phenomena are not considered malevolent. Rather, they seem to echo the presence of laborers bound to their work, their lives and struggles etched into the ruins. Photographs and amateur recordings occasionally capture anomalies, ghostly shapes in hallways, flickering lights where none should be, and shadowy figures in windows. While skeptics might attribute these to environmental effects or optical illusions, the consistency of reports across decades and multiple locations on the island points to a persistent spectral presence. The abandoned sugar mills of Maui are, in essence, repositories of memory, both industrial and humanware. The past is never fully silent. The ghostly remnants of Maui's sugar industry serve as reminders of the labor, sacrifice, and tragedy that shaped the island. For those who venture into the ruins after dark, the experience is immersive. The faint glow of lights, the echo of machinery, and the shifting shadows combine to create a haunting tableau that bridges history and the supernatural. The spirits of old sugar mill workers linger, not to frighten, but to bear witness, keeping alive the memory of lives devoted to the land and the industry that defined their time. In the silence between flickering lights and echoing footsteps, visitors are confronted with the enduring presence of those who never truly left, their stories etched into the heart of Maui's abandoned mills. Keeaumoku, a remote area on the island of Lanai, is a place where the past lingers in the landscape, surrounded by rolling hills, rugged coastline, and the quiet rustle of native vegetation. The region is largely untouched by modern development, preserving both its natural beauty and the echoes of history. Scattered across the area are the remnants of old homesteads, their wooden frames weathered by sun, wind, and salt spray. While these structures are silent witnesses to a bygone era, travelers who venture into Keeaumoku after dusk report seeing far more than abandoned buildings. Shadowy figures are frequently glimpsed near these homesteads, often dressed in early 20th century clothing, moving with deliberate purpose, as though carrying on the routines of life long past. Many believe these spirits are protective, continuing to watch over the land as they did when alive, their presence a bridge between history and the present. The homesteads of Keeaumoku were originally built by families and ranchers who sought to carve a life from the island's rugged terrain. Life here was harsh, with limited resources, challenging weather, and isolation from other communities. The settlers worked tirelessly, cultivating small plots, raising livestock, and maintaining the land. Over time, some families left, some passed away, and some vanished under mysterious circumstances, leaving their homes abandoned to the elements. Local lore suggests that those who remained devoted themselves so deeply to the land that their spirits never departed, lingering among the structures and the surrounding hills to protect what they had worked for. Visitors to Keeaumoku often report an immediate feeling of being observed. The air can feel heavier, a subtle chill, sometimes brushing against the skin, despite the warm island climate. Travelers recount seeing figures standing near the old homesteads. Their attire, clearly of an earlier, eerie long skirts, buttoned coats, or wide-brimmed hats. These apparitions often appear engaged in ordinary tasks, tending to invisible livestock, inspecting fields, or standing silently at doorways, gazing toward the horizon. When approached, the figures frequently vanish or blend into the shadows of the surrounding hills, leaving only the sound of rustling grass or distant footsteps as evidence of their presence. Many of the encounters are accompanied by auditory phenomena. Witnesses have reported hearing the soft creak of wood floors in the abandoned homes, the faint slam of doors that should remain closed, or the whisper of voices too quiet to understand. Some hikers speak of hearing the distant lowing of unseen cattle or the sound of a hoe striking soil, as if the land itself is replaying the routines of the past. These sounds often occur when no wind or wildlife could account for them, reinforcing the sense that something unseen, yet purposeful, inhabits the area. The protective nature of these spirits is a recurring theme in local stories. Rather than causing fear, many encounters leave a subtle impression of guardianship. Travelers have described feeling guided along trails or away from dangerous cliff edges, sensing a presence that watches silently, ensuring their safety. At times, the shadows seem to follow from a distance, never approaching aggressively, only observing. Some believe that the spirits of the original homesteaders remain committed to safeguarding their land and preserving its sanctity, even decades after their deaths. Light and shadow play a crucial role in the Keeaumoku haunting. As the sun sets, the hills cast long shadows that intertwine with the figures glimpsed among the homesteads. Mist can roll in from the coastline, softening the edges of the landscape and giving the apparitions a spectral quality. Witnesses often describe the figures as partially transparent or shimmering slightly, their movements deliberate but ethereal. Photographs occasionally capture anomalies, blurs of movement, faint shapes in doorways, or the suggestion of human form among the ruins that cannot be explained by natural lighting alone. The rugged terrain contributes to the uncanny atmosphere. Narrow dirt paths, uneven ground, and dense vegetation create moments where shapes and sounds are easily mistaken for something supernatural. Yet many reports are detailed enough to suggest true apparitions, figures performing specific tasks, pausing to survey the land, or watching travelers from a distance. Even seasoned hikers familiar with the area often experience a sudden, inexplicable sensation of being accompanied or observed. The combination of landscape, history, and residual energy creates an environment where the living are subtly reminded of the presence of those who came before. Local legends emphasize respect for the spirits of Keeaumoku, those who treat the land with care, avoiding disturbance to ruins or natural areas. Often report milder, more respectful encounters, shadows glimpsed in the corner of the eye, or soft impressions of presence. Conversely, visitors who approach carelessly or with disregard may experience intensified phenomena. Sudden cold gusts, the sound of footsteps nearby, or the appearance of figures standing just beyond reach. These experiences reinforce the idea that the spirits remain watchful, protective, and attuned to the behavior of those who enter their domain. The Keeaumoku haunting is a quiet, lingering presence rather than a force of terror. It is a testament to the people who lived and worked here, to their connection to the land, and to the lives that shaped this remote corner of Lanai. For travelers who venture into the area, the experience is both humbling and awe-inspiring. Glimpses of figures from another time, the subtle sounds of vanished routines, and the sense that the land itself remembers. The spirits of Keeaumoku serve as a bridge across generations, guarding their former homes, watching silently, and reminding all who enter that history continues to walk among the hills of Lanai. Palo Ridge on Molokai is a rugged and remote stretch of wilderness, where dense forests cling to steep ridges and panoramic views overlook valleys and the sparkling Pacific beyond. By day, hikers are drawn to its trails for the natural beauty, winding paths shaded by towering trees, the distant call of native birds, and the gentle rustle of leaves in the wind. Yet, for those who venture into Palo Ridge, there is another presence, one that cannot be seen by the eye alone. Locals and visitors alike have long reported eerie encounters along the trails, fleeting shadows darting among the trees, disembodied footsteps echoing across ridges, and a pervasive sensation of being followed. According to legend, these trails are haunted by the spirits of ancient warriors, guardians of the land who continued to patrol the ridges long after their mortal lives ended. The history of Molokai is inseparable from its spiritual and martial traditions. Ancient Hawaiian warriors defended their lands and communities with fierce dedication, often patrolling the ridges and valleys to protect sacred sites and settlements. Palo Ridge, with its commanding views and strategic location, was historically significant as both a lookout and a defensive stronghold. Tales passed down through generations tell of warriors who fell in battle along the trails, their spirits refusing to leave the land they swore to protect. These stories form the foundation of the haunting that hikers now report, with the shadows and sounds of the ridge seen as echoes of a turbulent past. Visitors often describe the first signs of the haunting as subtle but unsettling. While walking along the narrow trails, They may notice movement in the corner of their vijuna, flash of shadow among the dense trees, or the impression of a figure briefly standing at the edge of a ridge. The shape is rarely fully visible, often vanishing when approached, leaving the hiker with only a lingering sense of observation. Some witnesses have reported glimpsing figures clad in traditional warrior attire, their forms partially transparent, as if caught between this world and the next. The impression is always deliberate, as though the spirits are patrolling, keeping watch over the trails just as they once did in life. Footsteps are among the most commonly reported phenomena on Palo Ridge. Hikers frequently recount hearing the sound of boots or bare feet pacing behind them, sometimes in rhythm with their own steps, other times following irregular patterns that suggest multiple presences. When turning to look, no one is ever visible. Yet the sounds persist, echoing along the ridges and through the valleys below. These disembodied steps often intensify in quiet moments, particularly near old stone formations or cliff edges, heightening the sense of unease. In some cases, hikers describe feeling the presence of someone or something walking close enough to be sensed, yet entirely unseen. Shadows moving among the trees add another layer to the haunting. The forest along Palo Ridge is dense, and the interplay of sunlight, mist, and foliage can create shifting patterns. Yet many encounters go beyond ordinary optical illusions. Witnesses report shapes that move with intentionality, pausing near old terraces, stone walls, or cliff edges, only to vanish when approached. Some describe the shadows as humanoid but elongated or distorted, lending them an otherworldly quality. The combination of sight and sound the shadows, accompanied by the soft scrape of leaves or twigs, makes these experiences profoundly unsettling, suggesting a presence that is aware of the living. The ridge trails themselves contribute to the eerie atmosphere. Narrow paths along steep inclines, abrupt drops, and thick vegetation create natural obstacles, heightening awareness and sensitivity to the surroundings. Many hikers note a sudden shift in the air as they move deeper into the ridge, cool gusts that appear from nowhere, carrying the faint scent of earth and moss or the subtle vibration of wind through the treetops that seems almost like whispering voices. These environmental cues combine with the shadows and footsteps to create the sensation that the trails themselves are alive with history and memory. Local lore emphasizes respect for the spirits of Palo Ridge. The ancient warriors are seen not as malevolent entities but as guardians, observing those who enter their domain. Travelers who approach the trails with humility and attentiveness often report subtler, almost reassuring experiences: a shadow passing silently, the faint echo of a step, or the sense of guidance along precarious paths. Conversely, those who are careless or dismissive of the history may feel more pronounced effects: sudden chills, the sensation of being closely followed, or the appearance of multiple shadows moving along the trail. Occasionally, photographs and recordings capture anomalies along Palo Ridge: blurred figures in the trees, faint shapes moving across open clearings, or shadows that do not correspond with any known source of light. While skeptics may attribute these images to environmental factors or trickery, the consistency of first-hand accounts over generations suggests a lingering presence. The ridge appears to hold the memory of those who lived and fought there, preserving fragments of history in the very air and terrain. The spirits of Palo Ridge are a quiet but persistent presence, a reminder of the island's past and the warriors who defended it. For hikers, the trails offer not only natural beauty but a connection to history, a sense that every step may be observed by those who once walked the land with vigilance and honor. The shadows, the footsteps, and the subtle sensory impressions serve as both warnings and guardianship, keeping alive the memory of the warriors and their enduring watch over Molokai's rugged, haunting Palo Ridge. Waipio Valley on Hawaii Island is renowned for its breathtaking scenery: steep cliffs draped in green vegetation, cascading waterfalls, and a winding river that snakes through the valley floor. By day, the valley attracts visitors, drawn to its natural beauty, history, and hiking opportunities. Yet beneath the vibrant landscape lies a layer of sorrow and mystery. Waipio Valley is steeped in tales of fallen warriors, lost sailors, and tragic accidents, and many who explore the area after dusk or in quiet moments report encounters with ghostly figures along the riverbanks and near waterfalls. These spectral sightings are often accompanied by sudden drops in temperature, an eerie stillness, or the sensation of being watched, suggesting that the valley itself holds memories of lives lost long ago. The history of Waipio Valley is both glorious and tragic. Centuries ago, it served as a sacred place for Hawaiian chiefs and warriors, a location where strategic battles were fought and where the spirits of the fallen were said to remain. The valley's cliffs, towering hundreds of feet above the valley floor, became the final resting places for many who fell during conflicts or were pushed in acts of betrayal and war. In addition, the valley's river and surrounding coastline were treacherous to early sailors and travelers. Sudden storms and hidden currents claimed many lives, leaving families and communities to mourn their lost loved ones. Local lore holds that these spirits did not move on, instead lingering near the places where their lives ended, their presence subtly woven into the valley's atmosphere. Visitors to Waipio Valley often describe first noticing unusual cold spots, a sudden chill that seems out of place in the typically warm tropical air. These cold areas frequently coincide with other phenomena, the soft rustling of leaves with no wind, the faint sound of footsteps on trails where no one else is present, or a subtle shift in shadows near the river. Hikers recount sensing eyes upon them, a weighty presence that seems to track their movement even when the valley appears empty. Some have seen misty figures standing near waterfalls or wading through the shallow river, their forms humanoid but faint, appearing and disappearing as though in rhythm with the flow of the water itself. Sightings often involve ghostly figures dressed in the attire of ancient warriors or early island inhabitants. Some appear as fishermen or sailors, their forms slightly translucent, standing on riverbanks or along cliff edges, gazing out toward the ocean or the falls. Other figures are more abstract, shadowy silhouettes moving swiftly among trees or along the river's edge, disappearing before they can be approached. Witnesses frequently report that the apparitions are silent, yet their presence conveys an unmistakable message, a reminder of the valley's history and the lives claimed by its cliffs and waters. Waterfalls, in particular, are hotspots for spectral activity. The spray and mist create an ethereal backdrop that seems to amplify paranormal phenomena. Hikers report glimpsing figures near the base of waterfalls, sometimes standing perfectly still as if observing, other times moving along the rocks and vanishing into the mist. In some cases, the figures appear to be engaged in everyday tasks, collecting water, tending to the riverbanks, blurring the line between apparition and memory. These encounters leave an impression of continuity, suggesting that the valley preserves the actions and essence of its past inhabitants. The river itself is said to hold echoes of tragedy. The sound of flowing water often masks subtle auditory phenomena, distant cries, the splashing of unseen footsteps, or the faint murmur of voices carried on the wind. Some hikers recount hearing urgent calls for help, only to find no one around, the sounds dissipating into the rustling trees and rushing water. Locals believe these are residual energies, lingering imprints of those who perished in accidents or battles along the valley's cliffs and riverbanks. The cliffs of Waipio add another layer to the haunting. Their height and steepness are both awe-inspiring and dangerous. Visitors have reported the sensation of being followed along cliffside trails, a whisper of movement just behind them, or fleeting shadows at the periphery of vision. At times, figures are seen standing atop cliffs, silhouetted against the sky, their gaze fixed on the valley below. These apparitions vanish when approached, leaving only the sound of distant wind and the echo of footsteps along the ridges. Local stories emphasize respect for the valley and its spirits. Those who approach with reverence often report subtle, non-threatening phenomena, shadow moving among the trees, a cool gust brushing past, or the sensation of guidance along slippery or precarious paths. Conversely, those who are careless or disrespectful may experience more pronounced effects, from sudden chills to the unsettling feeling of being watched or followed. The spirits of Waipio Valley are generally considered guardians of the land. their presence a reminder of the sacrifices made and lives lost amid its cliffs, rivers, and waterfalls. Photographs and videos taken along trails, riverbanks, and waterfalls sometimes capture anomalies, faint human forms in mist, blurred shapes moving across the landscape, or shadows that do not correspond to any known object. While skeptics may attribute these to lighting or environmental effects, the consistency of first-hand accounts over decades points to a persistent spectral presence. The valley appears to preserve the memories of its fallen warriors and lost sailors, holding them in a quiet but undeniable vigil. Waipio Valley is a place where natural beauty and tragic history coexist. The lush greenery, flowing river, and majestic waterfalls conceal the echoes of those who perished, and the ghostly figures observed along its trails serve as reminders of lives intertwined with the land. Hikers who venture into the valley often leave with a profound awareness of this duality. The breathtaking landscape paired with the lingering presence of spirits who continue to watch, guide, and haunt Waipio, ensuring that the memories of the past are never forgotten. Makapu Point on Oahu is a dramatic stretch of coastline, where towering cliffs rise sharply above the restless Pacific Ocean. By day, the area is known for its panoramic views, hiking trails, and the sweeping beauty of the southeastern shore. Waves crash against the rocks far below, seabirds wheel in the sky, and the trade winds whip through the grasses along the ridges. Yet beyond the natural splendor lies a place steeped in legend and whispered tales of spirits lost to the sea. Visitors who traverse the trails at Makapu, after dusk or in the quiet hours of morning, often speak of strange phenomena. Distant cries echoing over the cliff's fleeting silhouettes near the precipice, and the eerie sensation of being watched. Locals say these are the ghosts of sailors and travelers who met their end along the jagged coastline, their spirits forever tied to the edge of the cliffs and the ocean's roar. The history of Makapu Point is inseparable from the sea that defines it. For centuries, this stretch of Oahu's coastline has been both a vital fishing ground and a treacherous passage for sailors navigating the surrounding waters. Sudden storms, strong currents, and hidden reefs claimed lives with alarming regularity, leaving the cliffs scattered with the memories of lost travelers. Oral histories tell of fishermen swept away by rogue waves, traders thrown from boats during tempestuous seas, and travelers misled by the fog descending from the ridges. These stories form the foundation of Makapu's reputation as a place where the living and the lost sometimes meet. Hikers along the ridge often describe the first signs of the haunting as subtle. A chill in the air that seems unnatural for a tropical morning, the faint echo of footsteps behind them, or the distant sound of shouting carried across the cliffs by the wind. These experiences intensify near the edges of the precipices, where the views are breathtaking but the drop is sudden and unforgiving. It is here, locals say, that the presence of the spirits is strongest, lingering at the boundary between land and sea. Many visitors report a tingling sensation along their spine, as if invisible eyes are watching, or a fleeting shadow darting along the cliff edge. Too quick to identify but unmistakably human in form. Silhouettes are among the most frequently reported phenomena. Witnesses often describe shadowy figures standing near the cliff, their faces obscured or indistinct, appearing to gaze out over the ocean. These figures are typically motionless, as if frozen in contemplation or sorrow. Yet some have been seen moving along the ridge, pacing or walking with purpose. When approached, the apparitions vanish without a trace, leaving hikers with only the sound of wind and waves as confirmation that something once stood there. Some figures appear dressed in old maritime clothing, while others are vague and ethereal, their forms blending with mist or shadow, creating an uncanny impression that the cliffs themselves are inhabited by the echoes of the past. The cries of sailors and travelers lost to the ocean are another hallmark of the haunting. Visitors report hearing distant voices carried by the wind, sometimes urgent shouts for help, other times mournful wails that rise and fade across the cliffs. These sounds often occur in areas far removed from other hikers or human activity, creating a sense of isolation and heightening the impact of the experience. Many describe the sounds as chillingly realistic, as if the spirits themselves are replaying the final moments of those who perished, eternally bound to the cliffs and the waves below. The natural environment of Makapu amplifies the haunting. Winds sweep violently through the ridge, interacting with cliffs, grasses, and rocks to create unpredictable sounds and shifting shadows. Mist or low-hanging clouds can obscure paths and cliffs, adding a ghostly veil to the landscape. Even in broad daylight, the interplay of light and shadow can produce fleeting figures or movement in the corner of one's eye. While some may attribute these to natural optical illusions, the consistency of eyewitness accounts over decades suggests a presence that is more than mere trickery of light and weather. Local lore emphasizes respect and caution. The spirits of Makapu Point are not generally considered malicious. Rather, they are reminders of the dangers of the cliffs and the sea, as well as witnesses to lives lost long ago. Visitors who tread carefully and approach the cliffs with reverence often report subtler encounter shadows, glimpsed briefly, or the faint impression of being followed. Conversely, those who act recklessly or treat the area without care may experience stronger phenomena, sudden gusts of wind, a chilling presence nearby, or the appearance of multiple silhouettes along the precipice. Photographs and videos occasionally capture anomalies along the trails and cliff edges, faint shapes in mist, blurred figures standing against the ocean horizon, or shadows that do not align with the sun's position. While skeptics may argue these are tricks of light or camera distortion, the abundance of first-hand experiences reinforces the idea that Makapu Point holds an enduring connection to the spirits of those who met untimely ends there. Makapu Point is a place where natural beauty and tragedy converge. The towering cliffs, crashing waves, and panoramic vistas conceal the echoes of sailors and travelers whose lives were claimed by the sea. Hikers and visitors who venture to the edge of the ridges often leave with the lingering awareness of unseen watchers, ghostly silhouettes, and the soft, mournful cries carried across the cliffs. The spirits of Makapu Point endure as silent guardians and witnesses, tied forever to the dramatic coastline, ensuring that the stories of the lost remain alive amidst the wind, waves, and shadowed cliffs of Oahu. Nunu Mountain, known to locals as the Sleeping Giant for its distinctive silhouette, dominates the eastern landscape of Kauai. Its lush slopes, covered in dense tropical vegetation, attract hikers seeking both breathtaking views and a touch of adventure. By day, the trails are alive with the calls of birds, the scent of blooming flowers, and the rustle of leaves underfoot. Yet when night falls, the mountain transforms into a place of quiet mystery, where legends say the spirits of guardians roam. Visitors who hike after dusk often report whispers carried on the wind, fleeting shadowy figures, and sudden chills that seem to move with deliberate intent, as if the mountain itself watches over them. The history of Nunu Mountain is intertwined with both Hawaiian folklore and the island's natural geography. Early inhabitants believed the mountain was a sacred place, a vantage point where spirits of ancestors watched over the land. According to legend, these guardian spirits protected the valleys, forests, and villages below, ensuring that the balance of nature was maintained, and that those who entered the mountain's domain did so with respect. Over centuries, countless travelers, hunters, and wanderers have traversed the trails, and stories grew of those who encountered the unseen protectors, figures that appear suddenly, whispers that rise with the wind, and the uncanny sensation of being followed along the trails. Hikers who explore the Sleeping Giant at night often describe a growing sense of unease as they ascend. The familiar trail becomes distorted in darkness, shadows stretching unnaturally, and the rustling of leaves or distant branches can sound like footsteps. Many recount hearing soft whispers carried through the foliage, words in an unfamiliar tongue, or faintly Hawaiian phrases that seem directed at them. These auditory phenomena often precede visual experiences. Glimpses of shadowy figures moving among trees or pausing at the edge of the trail, vanishing when approached. Witnesses describe these forms as human in shape but indistinct, cloaked in shadow, or shimmering like heat waves in the humid air. Unexplained chills are another hallmark of the Sleeping Giant's haunting. Hikers frequently report feeling sudden drops in temperature as they move through particular sections of the trail. These cold spots can be accompanied by a pressing sense of observation, as though an invisible presence walks beside them or lingers just behind. Some recount brushing past unseen hands or feeling a light touch on their shoulder. Yet when they turn, the trail remains empty. The mountain seems to respond to their movement, a living entity that watches and tests those who traverse its slopes at night. The shadowy figures are perhaps the most compelling and mysterious aspect of the haunting. Witnesses often describe seeing humanoid shapes moving with purpose along ridges, through thickets, or atop rocky outcrops. Some appear to mirror the actions of hikers, pausing when the observer pauses, as if studying or assessing them. Others are motionless, standing at trail intersections or atop boulders, silhouetted against the night sky. Photographs and videos occasionally capture these anomalies, though they are often faint, blurred, or only partially visible. The consistency of multiple first-hand accounts, however, suggests that the experiences are more than optical illusions. Whispers on the trail are reported in moments of stillness, when the only sound should be wind or the distant call of nocturnal birds. Hikers recount hearing low voices speaking in languages they do not understand, or soft admonishments and warnings in Hawaiian. These auditory phenomena often follow hikers from one section of the trail to another, fading when ignored but intensifying when attention is paid. Locals suggest that these whispers are the voices of the mountain's guardians, communicating through sound and presence to ensure that visitors respect the sacredness of Nunu Mountain. The mountain's terrain enhances the eerie atmosphere. Narrow paths along steep ridges, dense vegetation, and sudden drops create a heightened awareness, making even minor sounds and movements feel amplified. Mist frequently rolls in during the evening, adding a ghostly veil that obscures vision and softens shapes, making shadows appear to move independently of natural light. These environmental factors combine with the legends and reported sightings to create an immersive experience, one where the past, the spirits, and the living converge. Local stories emphasize the importance of respect for the mountain and its spirits. Those who hike quietly, stay on established trails, and show reverence for the land often report gentler encounters. A fleeting shadow, a whisper in the wind, or the subtle sensation of being guided along treacherous paths. Conversely, hikers who are careless, loud, or dismissive may experience intensified phenomena, such as sudden chills, repeated sightings of figures, or a palpable feeling of being followed. The guardians of the sleeping giant, according to legend, are ever present, maintaining the balance between the sacred and the profane. Nunu Mountain, the sleeping giant, is a place where natural beauty, history, and the supernatural intertwine. The lush trails, mist-shrouded ridges, and panoramic views conceal the echoes of ancient guardians who watch over the land. Whispers, shadowy figures, and unexplained chills serve as reminders of the mountain's sacred past and the enduring presence of spirits tied to its slopes. For those who hike after dark, the experience is both humbling and awe-inspiring. A silent conversation between the living and the guardians of the sleeping giant, ensuring that the mountain's legacy remains alive, mysterious, and ever watchful. Hawaii's haunted islands offer more than beauty. They carry stories of loss, sorrow, and the lingering presence of those who never left. From the cliffs of Oahu to the forests of Kauai, from volcanic peaks to abandoned sugar plantations, each island has its own spectral residence, waiting silently in the mist, the shadows, and the night. For those who dare to explore these haunted corners of paradise, remember to tread lightly and with respect. The whispers of the past are never far, and the lost souls of Hawaii's islands still wander, their stories etched into the land itself. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the most haunted islands of Hawaii. If you enjoyed this exploration of spirits and legends, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell for more tales of the supernatural from around the world. Until next time, keep your lights on, your heart steady, and remember the islands may look peaceful, but sometimes the past never truly lets go.